1.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Advantage. Did we go live?
Yeah, we did.
Okay. I just maybe
We
think
did.
we weren't. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Advantage in Paradise, where 51 episodes is not enough time for me to learn to trust Alex when he says we're live. Welcome, like I said, to episode 51 of Advantage in Paradise. We're 1 week away from our 1-year anniversary next week with episode 52, which is very exciting. As per usual, our audio, particularly our music, is provided by soundstripe.com, where we license all of our music needs. And our sound effects come to us from Sirenscape, an excellent tool for anyone's home games or their streamed games. I'm going to turn it over to Shannon now for any other announcements and social media stuff.
Woo! Hi, everybody. Happy Monday. So excited that next week is our 1-year anniversary. Speaking of, I have some updates because our mega giveaway just keeps getting bigger. So here's what one lucky person is going to win next week. From our amazing partners, Arcane Spectacle, we have a Spell Tracker Dice Vault. From Talon and Claw, we have a DM screen. From the Underground Oracle, we have a spooky content bundle. From Eddie York, this is new. He is donating a portrait. You're giving away a portrait, character or otherwise. And today, some amazing person in the D&D community sent us a $50 gift card to Critical Hit Goods to throw in there. So we just have so many things to give away, and it could be you that receives it next week. So make sure you tune in for our big 1-year anniversary next week. The keyword is going to be #1year. So make sure you are here, you're following us here on Twitch, and you have that keyword ready to go. Speaking of our partners, Arcade Spectacles is the creator of our beautiful spell trackers and other tabletop accessories. Their Kickstarter is live with 10 days to go. They are over $12,000 at the moment, which is amazing considering the original goal was $1,000, I believe. They announced that they added the Pathfinder 2E trackers in wood, and they added a new blue dice set from Die Hard. So if you haven't backed their Kickstarter yet, definitely get over there and get in on that because it's just... they're amazing. Caitlin and Jared deserve everything good in this world, and their Kickstarter is it's so cool. We do giveaways with them, sometimes on Monday, sometimes on Thursday, sometimes both. We are also working on some Paradise-themed products with them, and we'll have more information on that soon. And if you would like to purchase anything from them, please use the code PARADICE, PARADICE, for 10% off any item in their Etsy shop. Talon and Claw, you can also use the code Paradice in their Etsy shop to get any of their gorgeous tabletop accessories on their Etsy shop. Like I said, we're giving away one of their DM screens in the giveaway next week, and they make amazing things, so go check them out. Underground Oracle are the creator of incredible D&D 5e supplements. Cal uses Prongs of the Black as his primary weapon, and we are very excited to incorporate more of their amazing content. If you have not signed up for their Patreon yet, definitely go check it out. They have some really cool stuff. Last but not least, Eddie York is our original character artist for Paradise, and as you saw on our waiting screen, he did all of that art for our heroes, and he also worked with Alex to make our scrolling character cards that you will see in just a moment. Check him out on Twitter, Instagram, and Patreon, and throw some support his way because he absolutely deserves it. And I think with that, that's it.
All right. Thank you very much, Shannon, for
Ooh,
our social media shoutouts, our partner shoutouts, and announcements about our giveaways. All right. So I think without further ado, we should start playing some D&D. Okay. So, as I said before, this is episode 51. On the second day of the fallow dawn, known as Guavala, you all fled from the unstable, experimental ley sanctum in the Highland Syndicate camp in the forest realm of Taramran. Ignoring the blood, sweat, and tears, didn't mean to say tears, but that always comes after those. Ignoring the blood, sweat, and exhaustion, you clambered up the hills and knotted roots of the forest to escape this dire event. As you ascended, a bright white light lit up the forest sky and mountains as far as the Sinvosi peaks. A storm of fallout magical energy swirled in the now black smoke pluming into the sky as the forest around you had been darkened by this explosion. Timber fell to his knees as the last hope of saving his wife burned away in the bright light, for she had sacrificed herself to give you time to escape by holding back the critical explosion of the lay sanctum. With grief and pain, you brought Timber to his feet as a sickly black rain began to pour down from above, contaminated with dust, ash, and death. You trudged through the muddy rains and forest until Taramran the Firbolg, companion to Elspeth the forest gnome, your guides in this woodland realm, found a safe haven in an ancient druid burrow. Here you found rest upon the stone beds of the small sunken bunker, peering up at the ancient mosaic of the old elven domain of the Wood Elves. Exhaustion took each of you as you all descended into a deep sleep, save Timber and Taramran, who sat sentry at the entrance to the burrow. Timber, empty and destitute, simply stared up at the cloudy, inky sky, as Taramran held watch for the evening. The next day, you each engaged in some form of healing or therapy or investigation of your wounds and damage, stretching your muscles, trying to assess your situation. Scarlet and Embla having both suffered significant damage, but more so having suffered a severing of their soul from their body temporarily, were in the most destitute of states. As you assessed your recovery and your surrounding area and understanding what your next steps were, Timber, Curon, Wiswick, and Cal all chose to take their horses and wander back to the site of the explosion to explore if there was anything remaining, to try to find answers. As they approached, they saw that the blast radius had cleared away much of the forest around the central point, leaving behind splintered trees that were blasted back by the explosion. But even more peculiar were the discovery of spatial anomalies all around the central point, where massive pieces of earth and stone floated above the site. You occasionally saw small pieces of the camp floating around, but most of it had been obliterated and turned to ash. But upon approaching the actual central point, you found a crater here where the earth had cracked and sunk below a little. And within that sunken point, as water began rivering down into this underground area, you found the basement of the facility, the basement of the lay sanctum, where you found several chambers. You descended down and began searching the place and found several different things. You found prison cells that had been collapsed in, where you saw the singed bodies of people who were in the basement at the time of the explosion. You found a shattered, magically imbued glass that seemed to be harder than other glass and meant to withstand great power, but not this much power. It seemed to all gather around a central point, as if there was some sort of glass container or tank in the middle. You began moving deeper into the only hallway of this facility, as you found the back area where you saw a central common area that included several displaced experimental alchemy sets and other enchantment tools, but also two rooms, one to the left and right, that seemed to be quarters. You split up to investigate these as Curon took the left room and Timber the right room. Very quickly, Curon found the head researcher of this facility, seemingly someone who you had heard referred to before, dead in the middle of the room. But his walls of his room were covered in strange sigils painted in ink, blood, whatever he seemed to be able to find, that some of them were familiar to Curon as similar symbols that you had seen in back in Maginset all the way in the beginning of your adventure in the prison cell of Wyla the Druid. But there was a particular new one that he found. And this one is a circle that seemed to be made by several curved or straight lines that gathered all around this circle, creating an imperfect circle. A new sigil that Stefan is going to show you his notes of. Very nice. That his green screen's blocking? No. This sigil was new, and as Curon sort of cleared away some rubble and lifted up a portion of a fallen wall, he saw a depiction of humanoids bent and bowing before a great figure, this long, slender figure that was inside two parallel lines, much like a tank, making him think of the shattered glass in the previous chamber, and maybe thinking of the harvester. Because he may have recalled the Highland Syndicate member you found dying in the woods days before had referenced a priest or a doctor and his witch, who was running the facility, but also another prisoner in the facility who was kept away from everyone else. He also found several scrawled notes in the doctor's facility. In the next chamber, Timber was investigating what he found quickly to be Reyna's room, as she had lived in this facility for several months. He found familiar trinkets of what she had invented that reminded him of the different items that she used to sell in her shop back in Cabello. He found her jacket, her pocket watch, all sorts of memorabilia of her, things to remind him of her. A knocked over peace lily that was scattered about. What most peculiar was a journal. Its binding was made of this black leather that had veins of green light shooting through it. But on the center of the cover of this journal was the same circular symbol that Curon found in the other room, as well as several notes inside this journal in a language Timber could not understand. But as he flipped through it, eventually he found several dozen pages in Common was written. Here he found Reyna's notes and her own journaling. Some of it was about what was happening here. The difference between the scattered notes he found in this journal was that she would name the subjects by their true names. She would talk more friendly, more amicable, more of the woman he remembered to be his wife. And then he also found mention of himself and their children and their extended family, and how she desperately wanted to get out of here to see them again, but also that she wanted to save those who were trapped here. He took a moment in this room to gather up what he could of her belongings, composed himself, and stepped out to join Curon and Wiswick as he had just approached. In addition to all of these goods, Wiswick also, with the help of Curon, dug out a peculiar orb from the head researcher's room as well. This orb was blackened as if like a gas lantern collects residue, and it had a small wispy green light in the center, and the exterior of the glass had a opalescent shimmer to it. So you took all of these things and began ascending. To join Cal, who was keeping watch up above. And as you approached the top of the crater, Cal called out to you all to get down and hide, as there seemed to be a scouting party of wood elves who were approaching. Curon sent a quick sending spell to Valen, your old friend from Driftmarch, a wood elf himself, who said if you're somewhere you're not supposed to be and they're coming, you should run, because they do not tend to ask questions, but rather shoot their arrows. You quickly fled on horseback from the site, just as Wiswick cast invisibility on you all, so that it looked as though your horses were just fleeing from the site and running away. And as you got out of line of sight and got closer to the forest edge, Curon stopped and cast clairvoyance to see into the camp and how the wood elves were investigating. He particularly saw the leader of this scouting party shouting orders, particularly referencing in Sylvan that he was speaking and trying to get Cal and Timber to translate for him. They primarily were saying two words. They were referencing humans and they were referencing fiends. But you quickly took back to the road back to the Druid's Burrow to return to your compatriots. Once you returned, you organized the different materials and trinkets you had found. Some of them Wiswick was able to identify. He identified this strange oculus that they found as something called an oculus. That was a very old magic artifact created by some individual from a book that looked a lot like Timber's, and that it allowed him to cast some spells, locate person and scrying. The other items were, little knickknacks that Reyna had been working on. Quickly, Curon and Wiswick set out to reading the notes that they found and the journal that Timber had found, while the rest of you found places to rest for the evening, getting ready for the long journey the next day back to the wayward home for Faye. And whatever your future holds now. Now that you've found Scarlet's brother and you've found Timber's wife, there is no destination ahead of you. And you must decide your fate and reckon with your time together. That's where we left off.
Nice job, Sean. Under 15 minutes this time.
Oh, getting there.
I think that's a good number.
I think my best one was 9 minutes as far as brevity goes.
I believe so.
All right, folks. So
I just saw one.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh yeah, one of the things I'm not sure if I identified. So
you didn't identify the rod.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so it is. You've all settled yourselves to rest for the evening, checked on each other, and Curon and Wiswick are deep in the research for the evening. Curon using more time because of his abilities to sleep less, which we can resolve in the morning if you would like, when everyone is waking up. Is there anything specific anyone wanted to do before the next day, or we can just jump to the morning? Excellent. So
identify.
Absolutely. Let's do that real quick. Let me pull up. Just we might as well just settle that now. Pull up what this lovely rod is for you.
Sounds beautiful. It was made of wood and steel. That's what I had written down.
Yes, it is. Where'd it go?
Yeah. To remind some people, I also got a wand of flowers that can make some flowers pop up randomly in random locations.
Yeah, I remember being very excited that he got that.
Oh, yeah. I also got some rocks, but I don't remember what they do, but they had stuff on them.
They're hand-warming.
Yeah, I gave them one.
You gave them all back to me.
Yeah. Yeah, the rocks were just basically hand warmers that got hot enough not to burn you, but just to be comfortable. The rod is exactly probably what you think it is. It is an immovable rod.
Ooh. Okay.
Imagine all the pranks you can do with that.
You know, an immovable rod can be very practical too.
It's very
Hey,
practical.
Kyle, do you think you can lift up this rod? You're really strong.
Is that one of the ones that you could like pause it wherever it is, or does
Yeah.
it need to be
Yeah.
like connected to things? Okay.
No. Like you can literally just press the button on
Yeah.
it, and it will just stay wherever
Yeah.
it is.
Hey, you have two people that fight very, adeptly at like acrobatically was the word I was looking for. Fucking useful. Oh, you need to get up high. Vuh!
See some of the crazy flips that Timber and Cal can make with this thing.
That'd be cool.
Or I could just imagine. I shouldn't be giving you ideas, but I can imagine Timber just like some of his like acrobatics jumping up and then just sort of like shoving the rod down the throat of a dragon or something.
Yeah, he kicks it off with his feet, rides it in like a surfboard, and then
I-
turns it back on.
I was gonna ask if it could be made into like a weapon, because that would be really cool.
I mean,
Before.
it wouldn't do. Yeah, like I don't. You could use it as an improvised weapon,
Right.
because like the holding part of it like isn't gonna do any damage. It's just gonna hold something right there.
But if we're
So-
strong enough, we could just like drive it into somebody's back and turn it on, so they just
Right.
sit
Oh
there
yeah,
like a
yeah.
rod.
It's still a rod that if you wanted to like try to be like, well, yeah, I'll stab it into something.
No, not stabbing. Even just like just
Oh,
get
yeah.
it close enough so they can't wiggle out.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like you can shove it into someone's armor if there's any
great.
space in there and click on it.
Big fan.
It's up to you all to decide how you want to use it. And for me to react and be like, I did this to myself.
Yes, you did.
All right. So you are all waking up the next morning. It is now the fourth morning of Gualvala, of Vensdag. So it is the second day that you spent at this druid burrow. You discussed previously the night before that you would make your way out of the druid burrow and back to the wayward home today, where you will continue your resting. Scarlet, you've been able to lift yourself and move around a little bit, but you can't travel long distances on foot. Similarly with Embla, and realistically, all of you, the rest of you had just traveled on horseback, so you were able to not exhaust yourselves too much. Wiswick is in the best shape of everyone currently, and Curon is probably next best. Cal is sore, but able to move around more efficiently than Scarlet.
Generally sore. Just
Because
everywhere.
he's just every piece of him is bruised.
Yeah.
he is still a blueberry. But I'll say, kind of during some of the downtime of the previous day, Robert would have, done what he could to provide non-magical medical aid. He's quite skilled at stitching wounds, actually, and helping in that capacity with the assistance of Curon's healing rituals to help bring you all to a state of at least the ability to travel. There will also be a surprise this morning, as Elspeth would come rushing down in the morning in a cart that she seems to have druid crafted over the last day and a half, as you didn't really see her much the day before, as she, like a child almost, just sort of slides down the hole of the druid burrow into the room, as you're all slowly waking up on this, like, you've not seen a cart like this before, because you're used to, like, literally, crafted carts. This is like smoothed over roots that have turned into some kind of singular cart with wheels on it. It's not 4 wheels, it's 2 wheels, and it has two handles in the front, which Taramron immediately grunts at, knowing the future, that he's going to be the one pulling this cart, and it has enough space for 2 people, presumably for Scarlet and Embla, potentially. So this happens as you're all kind of prepping your breakfast. Robert's cooking over his in his cooking pot in the center of the room as you're all stretching and getting ready for the day. What would you all like to do?
Do you want to solve those and everything now?
Yes, we can do. What I'm gonna do is a generalized description of what you find based on your rolls. Let me know what you're looking for particularly in them, and then there will of course be some supplementary more information that I'll be able to give you over time. But let's first do what your priority that you were looking for in the notes was, and then we'll do our rolls for it. Wiswick, I know you were doing comprehend languages, right, for yours?
That was, yes, another thing I wanted to get done for the book that had the weird, not Timber's wife's part of the book, but the relic part of it beforehand.
Absolutely.
I don't remember if I did this, but I would like to at least just glance over Wiswick's shoulder while he looks at it to see if I recognize the writing.
Absolutely. Wiswick, I'm sure you're not trying to hide it.
No, yeah, it's fine.
Cal, it's not quite right. Like, you're like, this is not what I learned in class. This must be a dialect that I'm unfamiliar with from some maybe lower celestial plane, but it is in a form of celestial. Because I know that's what you were looking for.
Yeah, baby. Classic Tiburon method of pick one language that makes no sense.
But like we talked about last week, it's Celestial's absolutely for the noble class, like taking Latin in high school. Yeah.
Learn this. Why? Because all of our heraldry mottos are in this. That's pretty much all you got.
All right. So first, though, Kieran, what were you primarily looking to get out of it? Because you would have had more time than Wiswick would have with this, unless Wiswick you were looking to take points of exhaustion.
Oh, to read a book?
Well, no, you're right. But you would probably get. I would say you can't get your full 8-hour long rest out of it. I'd say you can get maybe 2 hours of that long rest on it. You will have to sleep a little bit.
Can I get the full rest if I don't prepare my spell slots?
No. What do you mean? Don't prepare your spell slots? Like don't get your spell slots back, or?
Yeah, exactly.
If I
didn't prepare my spells at the beginning.
Wait, can't you also just read this throughout the course of this day?
Right.
Yeah, I guess that's
you're gonna have plenty of time to read it.
Like,
right, if I have the rest, I have the rest. Whatever.
This is just to get
Timber. Yeah, he said I could hold on to it, so I'm not in any rush.
Yeah, there's no rush for you to finish translating. So let's get one thing that you wanted to get out of it right now, Wiswick, and then for Kieran, let's get 2 things that you wanted to get out of the research head's information. So Wiswick, you first.
So we just ask a question.
Just like, what are you looking for particularly? I mean, you I guess if you want to just start, reading from the beginning, but I'm sort of like, what are you looking for in the book? Like, is there anything specific you're looking for?
I would say I kind of want to skim some pages and try and figure out just a general idea of what this book's purpose is. Mm-hmm. Like if it's a diary, or if it's a if it's a list of spells, or if it's some sort of journal, anything. I just want a general understanding without going into nitty-gritty details.
Absolutely. All right. Go ahead and give me a investigation check or arcana check. One of those 2, or history.
All right, so I got a 3 plus 11, so 14.
That's fine. I mean, there's going to be basic things you're going to get just from being able to read it. It takes you a while to read it because of the comprehend languages, but trying to at least glean what the purpose of these pages are, because it's also a lot. It's not just 5 pages of a journal and then 3 pages of hers. It's literally 100 plus pages of this language. Mm-hmm. But sort of maybe starting in the beginning and maybe skimming a little bit to try to get as far in as you can with the time you have for this first night. The gist of what you can understand the purpose of this is a journal. It wasn't specifically meant to be, say, a spell book, but it was a journal that may contain, in certain points, spell-like equations or notes on research on spell work. But also the personal journal of an individual, it seems.
can I identify if it was Timber's wife, or
You
would
can't.
like something about what Timber's wife wrote in the first passage of before all of the other stuff make any sense to me, like in reference? Like, I wouldn't read too far into her stuff. I would just read the
Yeah.
first passage to see if it relates to the rest, the earlier part of the book.
Yes. So, from what you read, you can confirm what Timber's wife wrote, that this is from the Morasir conflict time. This journal, that the individual who wrote in this journal was an individual alive in the moments, at least the moments leading up to the Morasir conflict. The notes are particularly, they're not written as if during the Morasir conflict. It's not saying like, oh man, today I saw two gods fighting in the sky. But it seems to be from the timeline leading up to the Morasir conflict, the beginning of it.
Interesting.
And the individual seems to be in some way a servant, cleric, or follower of the Wayward One. Mentioned here and called by the name Hadric.
Okay. I'm taking notes.
The sigil on the front, based on what you've read, is the symbol of the Wayward One, particularly
Right.
during this time. Like, this was the symbol of his movement, his goals to subvert and destroy the divine order of the time. And this individual seems to have been involved in that somehow. From what you can see, it's sort of just journaling about their day-to-day life, really. It's quite literally a journal, from what you can read in this first night.
Okay, so you mentioned that there were small tidbits of like magical knowledge. Are these just basic spells, or are they some sort of experiment?
There's one that you can read as an experiment. And you only pick it up when you're skimming because you were looking for it, because Reyna had mentioned something that she was trying to do that she learned from this. And halfway through reading it, you start to feel a little strange. For a moment, it seems like the words start to, like, you get to particularly certain parts that you're skimming, and the words start to like shift for a moment. Like, while you're reading it, you look, and then you maybe blink or look away for a second, or take a break, or try to concentrate and comprehend languages. And when you look back, the words seem to be different, but the same. You feel a strange sensation of fluidness to the words of this part of the journal, as what looked like familiar sigils of magical equations suddenly just seem different. In that way that you think you forgot your keys in your house, but then they're just in your pocket. It's sort of that kind of feeling of just weird deja vu / like everything just didn't work for a second. And you do find that this ritual is some sort of teleportation ritual, is what you can see at its face value. It's going to take a little longer to decipher the magical equations. And that might be what you want to focus on in the next read of it. But it is some sort of teleportation spell, is what you can read from it.
Right. I think Wiswick could probably chalk up that weird feeling to just being tired and saying like, "Oh, I've been working myself too hard. It's time to take a rest."
You would be really exhausted right now too. So it would definitely be like that studying moment where you read 10 paragraphs of a book, and then you're like, wait, what did I just read? And everything just feels different.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yes, this is something that would be invaluable. Like, if anyone saw this or knew that you had it, they would either try to buy it off of you immediately, try to kill you and take it, or imprison you for transporting illegally transporting rare and important artifacts. So it's yeah. Just based on it being an artifact this old with this much clarity in it, as opposed to nothing really being this clear, other than maybe if you had a conversation with the Undying Queen back in Elysia, and she was actually going to talk to you and not just stare off into the distance.
I think I fall asleep hugging it, like on top of my other book. Like
Mhm.
it's just like I have to stretch out my arms a little bit more than I usually do.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's pretty much everything I wanted to do for now.
Great. Curon, what were you primarily looking for in the textbook or in the notes?
Yes, so these were scattered, correct?
Yeah, so they're going to be a bit difficult to organize, so you may not have like a clean start to finish like the journal has, but they are all in common though, so there's no need to translate them.
All right, so Curon would have spent first part of his time organizing. And whenever he comes upon something that references that symbol, or in some way reference Pallid King or Iluvan, he would pause to read a little more and be like, no, we need to do this methodically. Organize it first.
Okay. I missed the last few words of that. It cut out, but I think I got the gist.
That didn't even pick up. Yeah. Yeah. So organize it.
You can't.
methodically.
I was gonna say you can't do Kieran's voice every time you change.
Curon's voice is too soft for your mic.
By Iluvan. Yeah. Organize first, then read. Try not to get too distracted.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So go ahead and give me. I'll ask for 2 rolls. One for the organization of it, which can be, I imagine that could be a investigation roll. And then if you want, you can do what you think would be the roll you would make for looking for. I could say perception roll because you're like skimming to try to find this information. So let's do perception for after you've organized it.
Okay.
But let's get an investigation roll for organization.
Yeah. So that investigation sucked. 5. And the perception's not much better.
What was
You
the
didn't catch
perception?
that. 16 for perception.
Well, you know what's funny? I could read your lips there, and I did see 16. I'm now the observant one. Anyway, all right. So it's very difficult. Yeah. It's very difficult to organize. They're very scattered. The notes. You can maybe find a semblance of a timeline. The only thing I'd say, no matter what you rolled, you do discover is that there is a very clear section that is different from the rest. Because it's you presume based on the way you found him that this section were the most recent notes, because they are covered in similar sigils in the margins, and the notes themselves are written much more harshly. Like he was not, there seems to have been a tremor in his hand as he wrote these notes. You don't find with those rolls, you don't find anything referencing Ilyvania. As far as what you've skimmed, you find a few places mentioning the Pallid Mask.
The mask, not the king.
Not the king, just the mask, and it's in reference to it being Thatcher's mask, not necessarily something to do with the Pallid King or any other individual. It's just mentioned as Thatcher's Pallid Mask.
And it specifically calls him Thatch.
Yes, it specifically calls him Thatcher. It does not call him Reese. And who? I don't even know who that is. And it seems like what you can get of the gist of these areas is that he seems to be mentioning the work he's doing there is related in some way to the mask. You find notes of things saying Subject 0 displays outward magical auras similar, if not identical, to Thatcher's Pallid Mask. Subject 4 displays negative reactions to Thatcher's Pallid Mask, unsuitable for experiments. things like that. They're very scientific. They're very clear and concise about. Generally, there being some experimentation happening here regarding the mask, but more importantly, the energy that the mask has, and the Thatcher may what you get from it is that Thatcher was utilizing this facility to research into the Pallid Mask. But what you find frequently mentioned is this Subject Zero that is continuously referenced differently than others. The others you start to identify, these are likely those magical folk that were kidnapped. You can even see ones that are like, this is just straight up a dossier on this individual that just says, Subject 47, Water Genasi, found here, so on and so forth, unreceptive to experiments, unable to withstand transformation. So things like this start to make you think about the ritual that Jorhen was being put under by the stranger in yellow, but it seems almost like they were trying to recreate that ritual in some way to understand it more. And this Subject Zero seems to be the source of whatever, how they were making these rituals work. So in your mind, you might think with that kind of perception, like perhaps that glass container held whatever this Subject Zero was. That you also notice in that area where the notes are starkly different, his language becomes much less scientific and much more religious in the sense of like and flowery and speaking about visions and dreams that he has and how he's seen into the future and the past and sees all timelines, and like he's just you might mistake it for just a man losing his grip on reality, which some of it very much is, but it starts to mention, and this will be the kind of like the last thing before you need to do more research, but it starts to mention the name Nyalogith. Nyalogith. I didn't remember for a second.
I got everything except for the Y.
But this, it starts to reference like Nyalogith's shadow, Nyalogith's gaze, Nyalogith's burrowing whispers. And this area starts to become very like frightening to read, as this very concise and logical, strategic individual seems to have descended in some way into this somewhat fanaticism / loss of perception of reality. And there's more. You can tell there's a lot more here, because this is not like a single page of notes. This is like, you find every time you look through the pile, you find a new one like this, because you weren't able to like organize the timeline of these notes, but you find there are a lot of these pages that have more information about, and maybe that's what you might need to spend significant time on, is just, instead of like maybe during the downtime at the Wayward Home, just organizing it is your goal, so that you can see a clear timeline.
And does that name Ilogith mean anything to Kieran?
Give me a religion check.
You.
All right. It's cocked.
Try again.
I have a plus 50 in religion.
Whoa. I have a +7, but I still got an 8.
An 8?
Jesus.
It's a
Hey,
fun
we're
way
getting
to
all
say
the
it.
bad rolls
It's
out
a fun
now.
way to say natural 1. No, the name is not familiar to you. You are on it's completely new to you.
Cool.
But your good buddy was like...
Well, and that's what I was gonna say is that Kieran would have started, taking care of this, and probably at some point he would have been frustrated with trying to organize. I'll take care of it in the morning. Trances for 4 hours, awakens before everyone else, and then instead of trying to organize, maybe he does a little bit, but then he just expects. And as everyone's waking up, he looks over at Wiswick sleeping with the 2 books. And, Wiswick awakens. I can almost imagine Huron like crouched next to him, just like waiting. And the moment those little sniff-neblin eyes open, you go, "Good morning, Wiswick."
What are you doing, John?
Which subsequently
Well.
wakes everyone else up when Wiswick shouts out.
Yeah, no, Cal like rolls to his feet, sword like in his hand, about to be drawn, and then just like
Timber just
you
opens
sit back down, like hung over, just like fuck.
Timber just opens his eyes and with ears perked up, and then just stares at the wall and just goes, and then closes his eyes.
Apologies, I didn't mean to startle anyone. I was just curious, Wiswick, what your research has led you to learn. I've had quite some time with these notes of the priest, and I'm sure there's much we have.
I mean, there's a lot of there's a lot of content in front of me. It's gonna take a little bit longer for me to get a solid idea, but from what I can see, Kieran, like just between me and you, this book is really old, like super old. Like this could be something. This could be monumental. Like this is history that I've never read before. I don't even think the people at the surface know about this stuff. It's a really cool read. I'm excited to keep going. I really think we might be onto something here.
So having been woken, sorry, Cal would walk over and join this conversation, or at least just listen in.
Are you saying it predates the Morseer conflict?
Yeah.
No.
Right, Vanya. This is font of knowledge.
May I see it, please? Says
No.
Cal, skeptical.
I'm keeping it for Timber.
No, I'm not gonna take it. I just want to look through it.
Okay.
No harm.
But don't go past this point. And I put like a little bookmark over like where it shows like
Little dog ear in there.
yeah.
Jesus Christ! Don't dog ear a 3,000-year-old book.
No, it's a bookmark.
It's probably magical in nature.
Yeah, so this is I think this is basically celestial, interestingly enough. And it's definitely different from what I was taught. I wasn't a great celestial student, to be honest, but I did okay. Like these conjugations are very bizarre, but I could probably work at it with you if you want.
I mean, I'd appreciate the assistance, but I don't know.
Oh yeah, no, Cal, go back to swinging your sword.
shoulder.
Yeah, okay, all right. I say and hand it back in a huff.
No, please. Come on.
Have we learned anything?
Over
Have we
here.
learned anything of import? Do we know why Timber's wife was there? I think that's something we really need to learn for Timber's sake.
Well, I know that there's something going on with the book. I mean, I think Timber would probably have a better answer to that. He was the one who read the personal half.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't get that far because I didn't go past your mark.
Did you read all the 200 pages?
No, I didn't read it, but I skimmed. Anything in the... You were looking at the notes queue, yeah?
Yes, the priest's notes. Seems the nature of their work to understand. Specifically, Thatcher's pallid map. There's constant references to this subject 0 that I don't want to make too many assumptions, but may have been that the organic construct fought that we found in conflict with Reyna when first brought them back. But towards the end of this journal, the notes of this priest get very troubling. Seems that he got a bit touch of the madness. He constantly references this Nilogith.
Nihilogith.
So Nilogiths. It's always
Cal
about,
doesn't know that. Tim heard. Okay.
it's all about this entity's chateau or gaze burrowing. I've never heard of it in my learned study. Have any of you?
Have any of
Sean, would I have heard of this?
What do I need to roll?
No.
Okay.
Am I close enough to overhear this conversation?
This is a
or
very small room. Unless
Oh,
they're
I was gonna
whispering,
say,
everyone hears all
Huron-
of it.
Cool.
Yeah, Kieran would probably be saying half of it, like especially when he was like, they're there to research Thatcher's mask. He would have said this to the room.
Yeah, and ears would have perked up. What does it say about the mask?
I don't have too many specifics, but it doesn't seem to. Well, we saw that mask on the Geist, right? And then the mask that was trying to transform Yorhan. Thatcher's connection to the mask seems much different. He has more power over him. You know, similar to the Archdruid. But I feel like the Archdruid and Thatcher are using the way. I can't be certain, of course.
Well, based on what you all told me, it sounds like, or told us, I suppose, it sounds like Thatcher was able to remove the mask entirely, whereas the Archdruid didn't seem like he was able to.
Yes, he was able to take it off and remove it at will.
Yeah, because Scarlet and Wiswick would have been the only ones to have seen him without
Yeah.
the mask on.
Right.
Orlin never. I thought Orlin.
Orlin, you never saw Orlin without the mask until
Till we killed him.
until his
Oh,
death.
okay.
They were able to remove the mask from him though when you
Right.
brought
Yeah,
him in.
you are right.
Like
Yeah.
he didn't. It wasn't like impossible to remove, but the effects
Right.
of it seemed
He
like
was
they were
wearing-
impossible to be removed.
Understood. Looky,
Whereas
looky.
Thatcher seemed in control, even from when I came across him.
Well, Scarlet,
Well-
you would particularly have sensed that from when Thatcher casually just put the mask on. You know, he was much more like Orlin never took the mask off until he was
Right.
captured, as opposed to Thatcher, who held it like it was just a book under his arm and then placed it on his face.
So-
He said that he beat it in some way. He didn't elaborate, but he was able
Wait,
to control it.
He needed it. You said.
He beat it.
Oh, he beat it.
Yeah, you would remember he said to you, "I've beaten this thing,"
He
because you
succeeded
warned
on
him. You tried to
wisdom
warn him
save.
of its power, right?
So if we believe that, is there anything actually telling us that this was a Highland Syndicate location? Do we have any hard evidence on that?
Yeah, I thought that this was not the Highland Syndicate, but the people that we kicked out of Orangeshire, wasn't it?
No, they were in the lumber
Pretty
camp.
Sure, all of this is the Highlands. The fact that
We're
it's
fairly
not
sure, but-
Thatcher-
Yeah,
The
agreed.
closest evidence you have is two things. It is Timber's contact book Dasha saying that it was north
Right.
along
Right.
the river, and then just the Highland Syndicate member that you found that died in the forest. He didn't.
Right,
I mean,
but-
he didn't specifically say
Yeah,
like,
that's
"I
what
am
I'm saying.
Highland Syndicate," but the way he spoke was as if he was, hired brute who was
Right.
I would.
Right, I was just saying, like, I don't think we actually have legitimate hard evidence that this was the
Timber
Highland
does.
Syndicate.
Timber does from his
Okay.
wife's notes. Yeah, so Timber at this point would
That's true.
still staring at the wall, not moving at all. This was the Highland Syndicate camp.
Okay. So then it sounds to me, based on what you just told me, that Thatcher was paying for them to investigate the mask and its abilities, I suppose? I don't know. I suppose we'd
It
have to
seems-
read more, right?
Right, but it seemed from what I gathered, it's about maybe the transformation ritual that, as I said, had been holding your hand.
Mm-hmm.
trying to recreate it in some way. But almost all the subjects, except for this subject 0, who I believe was actually the fuel.
You broke up there. The fuel.
The fuel of the ritual, but none of the subsequent subjects survived to a degree.
Could subject 0 be Thatcher?
No, I believe it was the organic struck.
Yeah, the big scythe-wielding, flying
Right.
soul ripper thing. Yeah, I hated that.
All built on assumptions, but I believe it. Yes.
One other thing you would remember is the dying man in the forest saying that they had brought in another prisoner inside of literally inside of like a box, like they weren't the guards
Right.
didn't see them,
Which
and
we
that
at
once
first
that
we
that
had
you
hoped
might
was
assume is
Reyna, but now we know. Well,
Yeah.
assume again.
yeah, because he had referenced the new prisoner they brought in that was causing trouble in the camp, essentially, like
Right.
other guards would awake in the night in terror, and they would
Yeah.
hear whispers once that person was, whatever was in that box, whatever entity was in that box, was brought to the camp.
Right. So Kieran shares this information in a way that behooves the character.
And then Timber, you would also remember in Reyna's text that you read, she had referenced the subject 0 as I forget the exact language of it, but was essentially like regressing. And they said they were starting to remember who they were.
Timber wouldn't share that information right away. He's still staring at the wall. He's just being minimal. Yeah.
You know, I'm getting very tired of not having any answers here.
From what I can infer, I believe that there's something to do with a teleportation magic. Not too much of the transformation as Kieran hypothesized. Perhaps they're taking these subjects, or the original subject was from another dimension, like that creature that we saw before, and this is some, they were experimenting on it. I really can't say. I haven't read more, but I feel like if we keep reading onwards in this book, we might get the answers we need.
Look. And then Timber slowly gets up. You'll get more answers from these. This is more personal, but there you go. And Timber takes out the notes from Reyna's journal and hands it over to Wiswick. I'll need those back though. And Timber just walks out of the room at this point.
Wiswick gets to work.
So I suppose I have some larger questions that we definitely can't answer now, but I think things that you both should remember while we're looking through these notes. Is the Highland Syndicate also the one who was sponsoring the bandits and the Geist in around Maginset originally? Or are they their own separate problem? If so, then all of these, even if they are separate, do they all roll up into one who's pulling all the strings here? Like, you know, we've mentioned, you people have brought up the Wayward One or the Pallid King. I don't know if those are even different. What is the connection here between all of the different things that we've run into?
I think that the masks are the only.
That is right. That's the connection. Who's giving these masks away? Where's the mask sale? Like, what is the, where is this coming from? I'm not frustrated with you. I apologize. I'm just getting.
No, I understand.
I was trying to keep myself out of this problem, because this really does seem like somebody's cosmic. Like, this is not our problem, but it's starting to become our problem with the amount of times we run into this stuff. And so, I would like to at least gather some answers. And I feel like the only things we've learned is how to ask different questions.
Well,
I'm gonna go talk to Tara Brown.
Good idea.
Okay.
Or Elspeth, actually, whoever's most convenient.
You're
muted.
Elspeth is, I'd say I'd say this is exactly when she rolls down in the cart she made outside. As you can see
So
her.
I guess I just turned.
Yeah, I mean, this is a small enough chamber. And she does roll down, and before you can say anything, she just announces, well, I've been hard at work on this for the last day, and I think it'll help us get our way back home, or at least our home.
Oh, it's gorgeous. Thank you so much.
He's like, oh, old Taramran, he'll be able to pull this thing for our two friends here who don't seem to be able to walk very far.
Oh, I mean, if he wants to, I wouldn't make him do that. But he's closer to you, I suppose.
Ah, easy.
We could just hitch a horse to it.
That's right. We don't have a lot of horses around the Wayward home, so I make Taramran move a lot of things. And I didn't even think of those as capable of moving carts.
Yeah, no, it's quite simple. In fact, more of them are used for that than are used for riding, probably.
Well, then that'll be our solution. Taramran I might still make him carry it a little bit.
I did want to mention this, and guys, everyone, I don't remember if we brought this up last night, whether we ran into Wood Elves with Taramran and Elspeth. So we did have a bit of a run-in, or we avoided a run-in, I should say, with a party of Wood Elves at the blast site. Do you guys have some kind of deal with them that allows you to live around here?
Oh, the old barkskins, yeah. Like I said the other night, they used to offer us a bit more protection from the Thrykean, but they haven't been. Let's just say they've been receding deeper into the woods every year. So we haven't seen one in a while. We've had to kick up our own security and protecting ourselves ever since. But yeah, my ancestors, my mother, my mother's mother, father, and so on, we're all from a little forest gnome home by the roots of Sinvosi Peaks, about quite a distance northwest of here, on the edge of the forest. A little place known as where did my notes go? Shit.
I've heard lovely things about Where Are My Notes.
Where are my notes is where I'm from. No, it's a place known as Lidahole. Lidahole.
Got it. Well, I suppose I just wanted to make sure that we had brought it up in case that you foresaw that as being a problem.
Well, no, they don't come. They don't. We have an agreement with them for this plot of land for the sanctuary and protection of Fey folk, and they are of the Fey themselves. They appreciate it. A lot of these creatures end up moving deeper into the forest and find quite happy, unifying lives amongst the Wood Elves communes in the north.
Excellent. Though the stories that I've heard paint them in a bit of a darker light. So I was worried and wanted to make sure that you weren't.
Well, they don't have a great relationship with a lot of the, human nations. But what I've heard is they've got a fairly, some sort of agreement, particularly with your king, I think. But we don't really mess with that. I've never left these woods. So I don't know what's up.
Understood. Like I said, I just wanted to make sure that wouldn't. You didn't foresee that as being an issue.
No, the old barkskins. They're good people.
Excellent. Robert, start loading the cart.
Oh, okay, yeah. Yeah. They'll just get up.
I will assist him in doing that.
Yeah. So Robert heads outside to start tending to the horses, getting them ready, and hitching them to Elspeth's cart with Cal. Is there anything anyone else would like to do before you start heading back to the Wayward home?
Kieran will check in with Scarlet, getting put away.
You gotta lean closer to your mic, pal.
Hello, good morning, Scarlet. It is I, Kieran, your friend, here to see how your leg is doing.
feels better than yesterday. I think I can put a little bit of weight on it.
Well, we should still be careful. Believe it best if you go in that cart. Hitch Shadow to it. You won't be right.
Yes, I was going to offer that. Let me try and walk over there without help and see what happens. Is it outside or is it in here?
It's outside because they're hitching horses
it-
to it now.
That makes
They
sense.
presumed they were going to hitch your horse to it.
How steep is the incline going up?
It's not that steep. Think about any kind of ramp into any building that you might know. Like a handicap ramp.
Yeah.
It's pretty much that steepness up to the
Okay.
top. So challenging a little bit with with your the pain in your legs, but you could definitely put some weight on it and make it outside. You don't have to be carried outside.
Yeah. Okay. Hey, Kieran, let me go up the ramp and see how it feels.
Kieran follows her every step. Easy. Don't put too much.
When we
Remember to
get-
breathe. Remember to breathe.
I think this was a mistake. When we get to the cart, she's just like dripping in sweat. Right, I think that's quite enough for today.
But once you get up there, though, Scarlet, you do have this moment where you do like Kieran kind of comes up and helps you put some weight off of your leg, as you just sort of like feel a breeze hit you. Like you've been in a hole for a day and a half, so like you haven't seen like much of the exterior. Your friends had left. You just have been kind of underground for a whole day and a half, and just the breeze is nice. Kieran and everyone outside start to notice there's a little bit of bird song. Some animals have returned to the area. Probably not safe for them, but they've returned to the area, as opposed to the dead silence of the last 2 days. Is there anything else anyone would like to do before you depart from the Druid Burrow?
Wiswick keeps working until the very last minute and then frantically packs everything up in haste.
Okay.
Timber's just listening to when they're leaving and still figuring out his deal.
Yeah. All right. So you help Scarlet and Embla into the druid crafted cart that Shadow is now hitched to. Shadow and Embla's horse as well, both hitched to it. As the rest of you get onto your horses and start making your way, following Taramron and Elspeth. It's going to be about a day's journey, so you'll arrive at sundown to the Wayward home. Is there anything anyone would like to do on the journey besides keeping an eye out?
I'd like to talk to Embla, just as we're both sitting in there.
Certainly. So you feel the kind of bouncing of the cart, the bouncing of the cart. It's very like every now and then you're jostled and feel like, oh, that was painful, because it's straight forest you're moving through. So like the best you're getting is when Taramron and Elspeth are using their druidic powers, and you would all notice this, where it's just sort of like you see roots of trees start to pull back and readjust themselves and replace to essentially make a road. Like they smooth out the earth, and it's causing the journey to be a little bit slower, but not as slow as it would have been if you needed to find space to move the cart throughout it. But you look over to Embla, as you're both kind of in this rocking cart. You have enough space. You're not crammed together. What would you like to say?
How are you feeling this morning? Are you any better?
You see, she kind of had her head leaned back, with her eyes closed, kind of looking up. You can tell she was awake, just sort of like leaned back against the fencing of this his cart, and she looks down to you and just opens her eyes with a deep breath and just says, "Well, I've certainly felt better in my life. With all my years of adventuring, I cannot say I have seen such devastation and danger."
So it's horrible. Thank you for sticking with us.
Well, I made a promise to you all that I would do whatever I could to help him. She nods to Timber. It is unfortunate that we were not successful.
Yes. So, what are your plans now? Once we get somewhere.
You see, she has like, you and her are both kind of like wrapped in your cloaks. She just has her sword with her scabbard laid across her chest. As you can see, kind of that beautiful Gwyn sword that she has, very richly item. And she's just sort of stares at it, like pulls it off of her and just sort of stares at it for a moment, looking up at it and back to you. I do not know. I thought that it would be easy, that I would just go as far as I could with you and resume my search for my father. But it is a weird thing to see such oddities, strangeness, and danger, and step out your door the next day. How do you go on after seeing what we saw? And she's you can tell she's referencing when you were both had your souls severed from your bodies.
I've been thinking about that too. It's not natural. I wouldn't wish that upon anyone.
No. My instincts, as I believe yours are, or your friends are, Cal's and Puron, Lisworth. I would like answers.
Yes.
But how can one answer for such things? This is not something you just walk into a library about.
No, but it's a good place to start, I suppose.
But I also think that perhaps it is, as Cal said, someone else's cosmic happening. Are we, or are you, the people to solve this, or find answers?
It's starting to feel that way. This mask keeps popping up everywhere we go.
Do not know your history with this, but perhaps there are other paths. Maybe it will lead you back to this, but there is something to be said about just moving on from this. I have a lot to think about, as I believe you all do too. And I think we will have time before we are able to travel far. I am sure Rocky is very worried.
All right. Yeah, hopefully we'll see him soon.
Yes. We will have a big decision to make, as I believe all of you will.
Glad you're feeling better.
And you. Okay.
And you.
The only thing I would like to
Shut up,
do
Huron.
on our way back is think if it's time to pay Robert yet.
Do you
And if
remember
it's not, I will do nothing.
Do you remember the last time you paid him?
Well, because time is so bonkers in our story here, Sean, where sometimes 3 hours of play is 3 hours of in real time,
Yeah, I know.
and sometimes it's 3 days. I don't think it's time yet. I think we're closing in on it though. I think it's like
it's probably in like a week, I would say.
yeah. Let's call it.
Let's call it
yeah,
a week.
I think it's like four or 5 days.
Yeah. Let's say on the it's the 10th. He gets paid on the 10th of each month.
Well, he gets paid bi-monthly.
No, you're right.
So it'd be the 10th and be the 15th and the 30th if we're going by that.
You're right.
Have you been punching in magically every morning?
I would say Cal.
He's not hourly. He's salaried.
I would say then yes, it probably is. I would say let's just do the 15th and the 30th for ease of tracking. So you are 11 days from Robert's payment.
Okay. I gotta write this down. Hang on.
Because I think you paid him recently, so let's just say the last payment was on the end of Erlvala. All right. So, would anyone like to keep an eye out?
Timber's not. Timber's
Jet
like
will.
Figured Timber wasn't.
he's like
Cal would be.
swaying while he's walking, or
Yeah. Let's get a marching order real quick. So, obviously there's a cart, which I'm presuming is probably in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
So what? And then Elspeth and Taramron in the front.
Yeah.
So what? Who's after that?
Me.
Okay. Wait,
I'll
where's
take
these
rear
at?
guard then. I'll go in
Okay.
the back.
Timber's probably
Karen?
running right, like walking around where Wizik is.
Okay.
Kieran would be adjacent to or like just behind the cart,
Perfect.
trying to read very carefully the notes. And at this point, just take one note at a time, try to read the whole thing. Have like a scrappy paper on it, thigh that very actually they don't have.
I would say it's you can read while you're writing.
Right. But couldn't take like notes or something.
No, you would not be able to take notes.
Yeah, so
because
then just-
if it was an actual book, a bound book, and it wasn't loose paper, you
Right.
can take notes. But no, you can't take
Okay.
notes.
Yeah.
Right.
So just page at a time, take them out,
Yeah.
read through.
What about attuning to things?
You could definitely use this time to attune to things.
Okay, I would like to attune to the orb.
Okay.
And I think that I might have to remove something because I finally hit 3 on attunement nonsense. So I'm going to drop one of my rings. One of my 2 immunity rings will get rid of the cold resistance.
Okay.
Meanwhile, Cal's not attuned to a single item.
Wait, you're attuned to the Prongs of the Black.
So okay. And then it's not, you gotta make that a feature.
Oh, it's not on there?
Yeah, because it won't let me.
Okay, yeah.
Oh yeah, there are like custom items in D&D beyond that I can't like put in there, so I just remember.
That's okay. I'll go in and fix that in the long run. So you have you have 2 rings? Oh yeah, you do. That's right.
I have a cold resistance ring that also counts as warm weather clothing. I have a fire resistance ring that was previously cursed, and I have the parapet of wound closure.
Okay. So you're taking off the cold or the fire?
The cold.
Yeah, that makes sense because the cold will be more useful in the long dark. All right, excellent. All right, you're gonna attune to the Oculus. All right, I'll
Correct.
make sure I put all this stuff into D&D Beyond soon for you all because it makes it easier. Okay. All right, so Kieran is trying to do as much organizing as he can. You're attuning to the Oculus. Wiswick, while you're attuning to the Oculus
Rift.
the Oculus Rift, you do see not exactly like Cal when he attuned to the Prongs of the Black and the venom, ooze, went into his body. You do see kind of like the hand you're holding the orb in, you just sort of for a moment see your veins light up under your skin, a similar green color to the textbook, or not textbook, the journal's veins that are on it, as it just sort of shoots through your body for a moment, and then suddenly you feel this like almost like a third eye opening as the orb seems to light up a little bit more for you, and you can like instinctually know how to use it now. There's no like command word. You just know how to look into it and concentrate properly to identify it. Like for a moment you almost do it. Like you just sort of like start thinking about someone and it starts to boom, boom, and you're like, wait, we're busy right now.
Mm-mm.
Looking.
I'd
over
imagine
the-
he originally, like, the first thing that comes to his mind is his sister, but then he thinks, like, oh, no, like, now's not the time for that. Like, I can't handle that right now.
Yeah.
Wiswick, you identified that magic item we found in the priest's quarters. What is it?
Oh, the orb? This
Yeah.
this is definitely the biggest. I mean, besides that book, this is probably the coolest thing. I was really happy we found this guy. Apparently I can use it as a sort of divination tool. I can use it to scry and detect creatures. It has limited uses, but it's quite powerful.
Crescent Heart, that could be very useful in our current campaign, if you will, of gathering information.
Sure. Got any ideas? I'd love to give it a shot sometime.
Of course, when we've made our way back to the wayward home for Lost Fae, spend some more time discussing the best.
Okay, great. Sounds like a plan.
Yes, it does.
So for the remainder of the journey, is anyone who's keeping an eye out? Cal? Okay. I guess anyone who wants to keep an eye out that's not distracted, go ahead and give me a perception check.
Go, Jet, go!
Huron's passive perception while he reads.
I will say you still have disadvantage on skill checks, as you are still kind of in this exhausted state.
Sean, I did okay for Cal perception. It's a 19.
Nice.
Jet's coming in hot with the 9.
Nice. He's Jet's just flying around like it's daytime. I don't understand. What is the big orb of light in the sky? Something of note. I guess is like just like celestial body wise. The sun has been completely uncovered by the this month particularly is the brightest month of the summertime, Gualvala. So like the days are rich and warm and there's no rain today, so you just feel a very pleasant summer day.
Isn't there
Yeah.
no night?
No, there is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's
No,
not
it's
get too far into it, please, Tim.
No, it's literally
I beg
just
of you.
it's literally just 6 months of darkness and 6 months of normal light. Yeah, it's very simple. It really is.
It's not that simple. So
it is in terms of the mechanics of the game. Cosmically I know it's not, but neither
Okay,
is
we got
magic.
this. We're moving on.
Okay. Yeah, please. Just something to keep note of. All right. So 19 from Cal. Does anyone else do a perception check?
If you're giving me disadvantage, then while still doing this, then I.
Yes.
Did then 18.
I'm sorry. I did not hear it.
It might have not gone through. Yeah.
Okay.
18.
So I'll say that'll be for the whole journey. You don't notice anything of note like what you saw in the battle, because you don't see any burrowing spider creatures in the duff of the forest. You don't see any of these organic materials around. You occasionally just start to see more and more of the life of the forest. You reach a very specific point where you're back into the rich forest that's lively and not sort of in this dead state. And I'd say with a 19 and 18, you don't notice anything of particular danger. You're just noticing the liveliness of the forest returning and the general pleasantness of the day. You don't see any signs of Thrykeen. I'll say with your 19 and 18, there is a point when you do see and maybe for a moment slow down, a figure in the sky flying, but it seems too far away to be hunting you or seeing you. Especially as you start to enter into the deeper forest cover. But upon keeping an eye on it as you're moving, you can identify it as one of those manted draconids. And you see it kind of descend into this tall bluff cliffside where it descends into a small forest patch that's atop that. Likely the Thrakeen bluffs that were spoken about by Elspeth and Taramron as where they are normally stay and don't descend down into the forest. But as that disappears and some tension leaves you, and the sun begins to set beneath the horizon, you find yourselves getting closer and closer, and you start to hear the richness of the forest as you arrive and move up the hill to that little plateau where the Wayward Home is. You see the great tree and its large, thick roots. You see the pool of water scintillating in the coming night, and you have returned to the Wayward Home for Fae. And here we will do 5 to 7 days of downtime and rest to fully recoup from this battle you had, but also to engage in any sort of downtime activities that you would like to. I know it's not typical downtime in the sense of those are usually in cities, so you can like craft something or go somewhere, but this is more stripped down than that. But if there are things that you would like to do during this time, this is the time to do that.
I have something I want to do.
I do too, but it's not on the third day. The third day.
Okay. So yeah,
Okay.
we can move through it in that way. I'll say it's you've found a space. You return to that underground burrow area. You see immediately a prank of pseudo dragons just all start to flutter around Wiswick,
Yes.
from in a very Disney princess style.
Yeah.
As they
They help
Uh,
him dress in the morning.
Yeah, I imagine they like come in and they just like all like collectively lift him up and carry him in.
I have to stop them from roasting my pajamas.
Yeah, exactly. But you see all the familiar sights. You see the Vegapygmy village. You see all the Fey creatures. You see the Blinkhound pack that's resting, and you also see the corner with the small fire where Balog sits at this point with his cloak over him. And you find your spaces. You bring your things inside. You hitch the horses inside, collapse down, and prepare for several days of rest and whatever you would like to do. So you can stay for 5 days minimum, or you can stay a little bit longer, pretty much as long as you want after that. But you'll need to be here at least for 5 days. So I'll say you rest for the evening, and we're enter into day 1 of downtime. Is there anything anyone would like to do on the first day?
I would like to go over to Wiswick. When it's
Shannon, you might want to bet closer to your mic also.
Okay. I would like to go over to Wiswick, assuming he's safe and surrounded by his cloud of pseudo dragons. Wiswick, do you have any extra paper and a quill I could borrow?
Sure. I actually re-upped last time we were in the town. I've got plenty to spare. Anytime. And I hand her over my notes that I was like just about to write down, and just being like way too courteous.
Yeah, Wiswick literally like had quill and ink and a paper, and he's like,
I don't want to. If you're busy, I can come back later.
No, it's fine. I've got so many things on my mind, Scarlet. I can definitely take a break from, give my hand a rest from writing things down.
Thank you. I'll bring it back when I'm done.
Take your time.
So I'll take those and I'll go sit, like not near Balig, but like close to his area. Just like I don't want to be imposing, but I just want to be nearby. And I want to start, I'll like spread it out and kind of just like spread the paper out and just stop for a second and think about what I want to write. And then I'll just dip the quill in the ink she's left with it. And I will start to write my name, Scarlet. I'll start to write Scarlet and just start to it's been a while since I've done this, so the ink blot's here, and it's the S doesn't look particularly pretty, but by the time I get to the E at the end, you can see the progression as like my hand muscles start to remember how to do calligraphy.
Okay. So absolutely, you find a nice spot, kind of close but not too close to Balig. You kind of are in his little corner space. You maybe take one of the kind of stone benches that seem to be there, and you've laid out your work on it. Briefly, he'll just sort of like look up from, the cloak is over his head, and it's down, and then you just sort of see him looking up. You see the large swollen eye and then the smaller eye, and he's just sort of, as you look back down, as you slowly begin your process, and as you said, the ink blots here, you drip ink in the wrong place, but by the end, the first word, your muscle memory starts to kick in, and you continue writing, and it becomes more and more precise and beautiful as you get through the page.
I write names that are important to me. I write Caleb. I write the name of my mother, the name of my father. I very specifically do not write Reese's name on there, but I'll practice. If there's space on the page, I'll write the party's name on there. Just getting the feel for it again.
Who's first?
You, Wiswick, you're always first.
Yeah, because your name took up a whole page.
So I'll say
Cal's
Huron,
3 letters.
seeing Scarlet over by our Fomorian friend, remembering what Taram Ran said about symbol, we'll see this as a good opportunity to start this process. Approaching and go, Scarlet, Taram Ran, you made conversation with the Fomorian here. What was his name?
Balig.
Balig, yes. And can't help but to notice. Is the brand on his back visible to all, or?
No, he has a cloak over him.
Okay. So Kieran will say, well, Tamron told me that same symbol we found down the priest's quarters and the one that adorns Reyna's journal, branded on his back. Possible, I would very much like to discuss with him how that about.
Well, Taramon did say that it was rather rare that he spoke. There's a very good chance that he won't.
Well, I'll give it a shot, and if you could try to help out, and then if we get nowhere, that's okay. But this may be a quick way to answer some questions. And with that, Kieran will kind of walk over and, excuse me, what was his name again? He says, turning back. Balig. Big leg. Balig.
Maybe a softer voice, Kieran.
Me? A soft? Are you kidding me? Balig, excuse me. He says, kind of like walking around, like, yes, hello.
Yeah.
I'll walk behind him.
Okay. And Balig, who's just sort of sitting there, and you can see what he's doing now. He's just sort of has these. You notice like a bunch of just like pieces of wood at his feet, and he seems to be carving, whittling something.
Mm-hmm.
It has no shape to it that is familiar. It's just sort of like you'd honestly think he was just breaking this piece of wood down into nothing over and over and over again. And he'll just sort of look up from it. And you just see that one big eye kind of just like the hood of the cloak draping over it slightly. So he just looks and you can see that purple green pocked skin.
Kieran's going to ready calm emotion. Going to take out the pendant with the symbol on it that he'd taken from the priest and goes, "Excuse me, do you recognize the symbol?"
Scarlet, do you do anything?
Uh,
How do you assist, I'd say?
yeah. Before, I probably should have done this early, but before Kieran pulls out the symbol, I want to ask Baelig. My friend has some questions for you. Would it be all right if he spoke to you?
So, with that, the way I'll ask for this is Scarlet, I'll ask for a persuasion roll from you. And then Kieran, I'll also ask a persuasion roll for you for after Scarlet. So normally I'd give you the choice of who to do it with advantage, but based on how you're doing it, I think it's appropriate for it to be one after the other.
Yeah, it's not great. 10.
Okay.
Did the digital one and it was like a 3 and it was like, no, it flipped. A 19, so 18.
18 total. Okay.
-1 charisma, baby.
Okay. Oof. If Scarlet did better, that would have done much better. It's gone much better.
He's like got the bell readied and the symbol he's holding.
All right, so as soon as you take it out, you sort of see like he was just staring at you, and he stared at Scarlet first and sort of gave a less aggressive, and then looked at you and was like, and then you pulled out this pendant, and it's sort of like, if this was a movie, it would rack focus to the pendant in his point of view, but you see.
Easy boy.
As he starts to, he's crushing the wood in his hands, and it's just lets go, and it's just in pieces as he's starting to stand up and just sort of.
Starting to get up. Kieran puts away the pendant and goes to cast
Calm emotions. Okay.
So charisma 6.
Charisma.
Mm-hmm. Right?
He's got to be bad at charisma, right?
Look. This charisma roll brought to you by Mountain Claw. What is this charisma? Okay, it's worse than Kieran's. So with a -2 charisma, that is a 13. So he fails. So the magic of Ilyuvania emanates from your palm, Kieran, and begins to soothe the trauma of this creature of Baelig, as he just sort of slowly starts to deflate from his growing rage that was turning into his full-on assault. He just
I'll step forward when he's calming down a bit, and I'll just place my hand on top of his. I'm sorry that upset you. If this is too difficult, we don't have
to. He'll knock your hand away from his, and just sort of return to that slunched position, pulling the cloak back over himself as he starts to pick up the pieces of wood that are on the ground.
I'll keep talking to him. I can't imagine what you've been through. and I know it must be difficult to talk about, but I'm starting to realize that the more that you talk about something, the less painful it becomes.
And as you're speaking to him, you see he's slowly picked up a majority of the wood shavings on the ground and has them in his hands. And he just sort of crushes them down, and then you see a little bit of green light underneath. He pulls his hands away, and they're all a solid piece of wood again. Then he slowly starts to shave down. He said he does not respond.
I'll turn to Kieran. I don't think he's up to talk.
Maybe another time. I have a
Yes.
thank you. Help.
Of
Walking.
course.
Steph, we're getting almost none of that.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna. He says thank you some other day and walks away. Did you get that?
Yeah, actually.
Yeah, that one came through perfectly.
Yeah.
All right, so Kieran will just talk like this now.
I think you just can't move from that
Perfect.
spot.
My back.
Okay. I'm not necessarily going to do this day by day, but is the next thing someone would like to do? Kieran and Cal. All right, so let's say it's
Mine's
unless
easy.
So let's do Cal's then real quick.
So once I was through the straight up bruised and bleeding and just into sore, Cal would get back into his lapsed exercise routines, and because he's not the one who has to investigate things, he's not the one who has to deal with anything, he's just gonna like really get back into like he's gonna spend my day I'm gonna spend my days like drilling sword forms and like going through I think it's just forms. Whatever. Kata in Japanese.
Get back into the calisthenics
The deal.
and the training.
Yes. And I literally don't have anything else to do. So
It's fine.
that's what we're doing.
Don't have to have any big things to do.
And I do want to at some point have a conversation with Robert, but that could be at any point when Robert is interested in having a conversation.
Well, I would say during like each of the like it's not at first, but like Robert is like doing things around you as you're training, and just like watching dutifully and intently. And if you look at him, he's just like, I'm just saddling, feeding the horses. But he is like carefully watching you train with obvious interest.
Okay. Well then, let's let Stefan go first if it happens at the beginning of the week, and then I can do that later.
Yeah, he definitely I'll say that grows over the time of you training each day until let's say about like 3 days in is when it really hits a peak where he's really like basically just sitting there like eating rations and watching you and not even pretending like he's not watching you.
Okay.
All right. Q.
Then we can, when we get to 3 days in, give you a call.
Yeah. Will do. Q. Can't hear you at all.
Kieran is going set up.
Yeah, that's not coming
Can't.
through.
At all?
Thumbs up. Yeah, like
I
Kieran
literally
is going to, and then nothing.
I just changed sense.
Just change
Did
it.
you turn it?
Fine. Thing has to gain.
Sounds like you reduced your sensitivity now because it's
Right.
worse.
You reduced your sensitivity.
Just set it to 0.
Just set it to 0.
We'll see if it fixes it. Yeah.
Okay,
Doesn't fix
so-
it.
But that was your lips.
So yeah, gain on the mic then, I guess, maybe.
Well, now nothing's coming through. I'm curious if he put it the opposite.
Yeah, did you go all the way up or all the way down?
All the way up. All the different.
No, you want it down.
Yeah.
Nope.
Okay, whatever. Just get it back to
How
where it
about
was
now?
before. That's better.
There
Better.
you go.
There we go.
Maybe.
Okay. Talking, testing. Let's real
Sounds
quick.
good right
Oh,
now.
good, that's a good.
All that's coming through.
Okay. Anyways, tiny hut,
Yes.
little privacy.
Okay.
Cross-legged. Take out a fine spool of copper wire, thumbing it. You know, as a magic user might, to cast Sending.
Yes.
And he's going to reach out to the one we would call Ad Wolf Thatcher.
Okay.
Whoa.
Oh,
And his
Okay.
message as such that you don't need to check. It is exactly 25.
Doing it anyway.
Greetings, Thatcher. Or should I say Reese? I'm curious about your mask. Where did you get it? How have you mastered it? Your secret admirer.
Okay.
That's
So-
26.
No, it's
Oh, wait,
not.
no, that's 25. My bad.
Conjunctions count as one.
Yeah, it's true.
I
Magic
thought
knows
Secret Admirer,
language.
like, you were going to say your name, but after that.
Okay. So this is actually a good question.
So the thing is, things to
Oh,
know,
it knows. It recognizes you.
but
right.
only if he knows me. He doesn't know me.
Yeah, they
He
never
never
met.
once-
oh wow.
I guess
never
you're
went-
right. Actually,
Yeah.
he does.
Kieran
not
was
know
a
you.
shadowy figure in a stand for about
That's
30
true
seconds.
because you immediately went downstairs, so he'd have no way to know. No, he doesn't know you at all. Yeah, you're right.
Wow.
He barely would have even seen you in that last moment because darkness would have covered you almost immediately.
Mm-hmm.
So he actually does not know who you are. Great. That's awesome.
That's awesome, dude.
Sean's like now
This is-
giggling
that's
like,
real-
oh, how do I handle
That's
this?
real cool. That's real cool, dude.
It's really cool,
That's real cool, dude.
guys.
Nah, Stefan gave me a little bit of warning, but not that part. Okay, so you asked him how you mastered your mask, and you essentially that's the
Where
main
did-
question.
Well,
Where he-
it was, I like your mask. Where'd you get it? How'd
Where'd
you
you get
master it?
Yeah. Okay.
And of course, refer to him as both Thatcher and Reese.
Yes. Yes. All right.
Sean's like, let me drink a little bit.
Let me just formulate the response real quick, but exactly how he would react to a secret person penetrating his mind.
Secret
person, and what he could presume from what you've said. Okay. After a few moments, you know, using the copper wire, the message is sent. You feel the voice in your mind returning the message. I obviously don't know who you are, but I can tell you're someone Rowan knows. I presume you helped her escape that night. If you're asking about the mask, I also presume you know what it is. I got my mask same way most of them do. But, as you said, I can control it. Are you with her? Are you fleeing with her? Tell her I have a gift for her. And as soon as I find you, I will give it to her. And maybe then I'll answer these questions. Whoever you are.
Kieran's going to make a response.
Okay. I was curious if you would cast it again.
If someone has done anything, give me a moment.
Okay. Yeah. I'll give you a moment. Because you've got plenty of spell slots to have a full conversation with this guy. Not sure he's just gonna give you a response every time. But anyway. All right. Other folks. I say we'll save like the last day, whenever the last day is for you all, for just group conversations or anything, like something, you know, you deciding what you're gonna do next. What's your? Because the 5th day is when you'll all be like, yeah, I pretty much can do anything now. Or I'm like moving around. You know, the healing regiment is helping me. The phase sap is helping me because each day Elspeth, like ritual, comes to you in the morning and just like places by each of your beds a little bowl of this phase sap, and it's just like, drink your medicine.
Do we grow a little bit taller each time?
Only Wiswick, who grows
Sweet.
1 inch taller.
Hell yeah.
I do want to go give Wiswick back his quill and well, not the paper. I'm going to keep the paper. But as I'm giving it back, Wiswick, I thank you for letting me borrow this. I want to purchase my own the next time I can, but I have one more favor to ask.
Sure, what's up?
I overheard you talking about the orb and what it does.
Oh, yeah. You know, it could be a really good tool for us with this, with your brother and all. You know, it would be easier if I had some sort of object that was his, or perhaps if you could tell me something about him, more details about how you remember him.
I wasn't going to ask about him.
Oh. Oops. Well, what were you gonna say then?
I was going to ask you if you could see what Caleb is. I have his cloak and his dagger.
I think I could help with that. Sure. I saw his face too. That helps. All right. Let's give it a try.
Thank you. I'll go and get Caleb's belongings and bring them over.
Yeah, those belongings will help. They'll give him -4 to his saving throw.
Nice.
And
Yeah. And I have a question for you, Sean.
sure thing.
Can I use my alchemical casting with my magic items?
No. I
Sad.
would say no.
Okay, well then I'm just going to cast Scrying on Caleb.
Okay. What's your spell DC?
Good question. It went up because I leveled up and I
Ooh,
put all my points into int.
nice.
16, baby.
Ooh, very nice. All right, and he has a -4 to this. Okay, let me roll this. What kind does it again? Wisdom?
Yes. Well, I can't modify that, so yeah, it has to be wisdom.
No.
Wait, that's not technically alchemical casting, but I'm guessing I can't modify it anyway.
No, because you no, because it's primarily through
It's
the
still,
orb.
it's just a different class
Like
feature.
if it was giving you like the scrying spell is just like if you to innately cast and not use the orb to cast it essentially, then I'd say yes. But because it's primarily through the orb that you're casting the scrying, you have to like it's outside of you, I guess is the way to put it. So the alchemical casting doesn't work with it. Okay. All right, so he rolled a natural 12, so he fails.
Nice.
Okay.
I get 10 minutes of spying.
When are you casting this? Like on the 5 days? And what time of day?
If it were up to me, I'd say like 5 p.m.-ish, but it's up to when
I'll say
Scarlet
Scarlet,
wanted
yeah.
it.
When did you ask him on what of the 5 days did you ask him and what time of day?
I think I would have asked him on the 4th day.
Fourth.
And
There were other things I wanted to do.
Oh,
Well, yeah, go ahead. It's fine.
I can walk it back if you want.
Or you could just wait till then.
Yeah, we can wait until if there's things we want to do before that will affect that, we can wait.
Yeah.
All right. So, are you ready, Kieran?
Oh, you know it, boss. Taking a moment after Reese's response, Kieran send another sending
I'm not that familiar with the Pallid King's faceware. Please enlighten me. Then we can discuss your dear twin sister. Talk to you soon. Q.
Okay. Okay. So you hear a response after a moment. I think I'll still save this conversation for when I find you. Curious your knowledge of the Pallid King. Oh, I think I'll have much use for you. I'll find you soon. Very soon. With love, Reese.
What a butthead.
I just want for the rest of the campaign until you guys see Reese again, just for Kieran to be having these daily conversations with him.
Let's go.
And when
Yeah,
you finally find him, he's like, "All right, I'm gonna kill all of you except for you." We're good."
Yeah, Kieran is Thatcher's therapist now too.
yeah, right. But 10 episodes from now, Thatcher's just like, "Well, she bullied me when we were kids."
She always got the attention. She did. What about me?
Yeah, she.
Yeah, we're twins.
Father loved her more. We're almost the same.
We called him Papa, not Father.
Papa.
I think it was when Papa didn't give me a. Oh, this was very helpful, Q. I'm reformed now.
Will you take a blessing under the full moon of Illyvania?
Oh, please baptize me under. I am born again.
Looked upon you and says it is such. Be reborn
Okay.
Jesus Christ.
Okay.
under the light.
So those are Thatcher's responses. Seemingly, I mean, at the very least, you know that he's not. He actually is actively looking for you.
Mhm.
It's not just like, well, they got away. Time to go kill more people. So yes, so that's something good to note. Are you? And you're not going to send another response, right? Or are you? At least not today.
At least not today.
Okay.
I mean, no.
I'll give you a moment to think about it. You have more days here.
Right.
All right. Timber, is there anything you want to do?
Yes. Probably on the third day. Evening. Timber would probably walk outside to that pond.
Yeah.
He would have, brought his pocket watch. I mean, he's always gonna have the pocket watch with him. Hold it in one hand, and go over to the lake. Kneel down. Just hold it into his chest for a little bit, and kind of hang his head. As more thoughts pour through his head, he's gonna start weeping. Tears are gonna start going down his eyes, or not out of his eyes.
Out of his face.
Out of his face.
Just tears are
Out his eyes.
shooting tears out. Yes, you're knelt beside the pond, head down, weeping, letting the emotions swim over you as you held onto the pocket watch.
Right. And at some point, he's gonna take out Inkswell, his kunai, look at it a little bit more, and hold the blade towards his heart, looking out of the pond, kind of poking his skin. back and forth. Not sure what to do. And in his head, he's gonna think, I am not a perfect vessel. He's just gonna do that for a little while.
So on the edge of the pond, you kneel, tears down your face as you look up for a moment and take out Inkswell the kunai, draped in the shadow within the blade, rippling across it, that power of your patron, as you hold the blade towards your heart. And
They will never
its own-
be the perfect vessel.
there's this silence around you as you're waiting, but also thinking about this. And no voice echoes in your mind. You hear no flapping of owled wings. You are alone in the dark of night by this glistening pond. Alone. The first time in a while.
At some point, he's just gonna drop the kunai, sprawl out, still with tears running down his eyes, or his face, damn it. And just stare at the night sky for a long time. Contemplating to take his own life.
And then this isolated moment, unsure of what to expect, really, other than these thoughts swimming in your mind. You sit for a while in this meditation.
That's it.
Yep. And nothing happens in regards to those entities that seem to have sway over your life. You're alone with those thoughts before eventually lifting yourself up and wandering back in. Okay. And that was on the third night?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Wiswick, there were things you wanted to do before scrying on Caleb.
Oof. Okay. First, I was gonna say that maybe on the first day, Wiswick would try and talk to Timber, but like not find the right time because he wants to try and help him. Like he remembers that he promised to help create a memorial for his wife, and perhaps he goes off and creates a golem and makes a monument, but like doesn't carve anything into it, or like doesn't mold it in a certain way. Just gets a golem to find like a really nice rock and put it down like in an open field somewhere, and just like save it for the time when it like is right for Timber to like come over and just like do it. That would probably be the first day. The other thing he wants to do is look for Taramron, and if he ever goes out on his outings, just maybe accompany him to a few of those. Specifically interested in the ones that go below into the caverns, and see if he can just stay behind Taramron. Like, I'm sure that it's not going to be too dangerous. Like, we don't have to go through combat or anything, but cast Locate Creature when he's down there and see if we can detect any Snurf Neblins. 1,000-foot radius.
That was good. Thank you. That was what I was going to ask for. As you are kind of joining him on his nightly patrols through the lower tunnels. Okay. How long does that last?
So it's an hour-long spell,
Great.
and I imagine the first time I do Snurf Neblin,
Mhm.
and then like the second time I might do something along the lines of like an Earth Elemental, because
Okay.
I've recently had a lot of experience with those, and then perhaps like I'll just keep going, trying different things depending on what I find.
Yeah, I would say that as you're moving through, you don't sense any Zvirfneblin as you're moving through these tunnels. Taramron doesn't go as deep as possible, though.
Mhm.
He simply seems to have and you can tell as he's walking, like he has these like markers you can see around where it's like little objects that are hanging off of the wall that he's either chiseled in or molded the earth to hold these objects, and they're just little talismans that you can tell you see him tap them and they light up. They're like these little wicker woven things where he's used druid crafting to create with these little small blue cloudy blue gems in them. And every time he clicks on it, you see it kind of like lights up for a moment, and he says notes into it. Essentially, this tunnel. Searched 100 more feet into this tunnel, found nothing. Remnants of footwork. He's just each of these little points that are his like order. Essentially, he puts
Mhm.
notes into these little objects that record them for him to remember later. And as you're following, you might take some notes of that, kind of just.
Yeah, I would imagine as soon as I catch on to it, I might investigate a few of them, and if there's anything of interest in his notes, I might ask him to like go down that tunnel just to take another look, because maybe I'll know what type of creatures down there. Maybe he said there were footprints. Like perhaps this could be a Snurf Neblin. Like,
yeah, I would say give me a general investigation check.
yeah, I was really hoping you weren't going to say survival. 12 plus 8, 20, unnatural.
A natural 20, great. So I would say you see the familiar, like sort of, he has like found this ring he goes around essentially that like touches upon some of the deepest tunnels and then allows him to come back towards where he started. It's just he's found a specific path through the tunnels that leads back to their burrow. But there are like a lot of other tunnels in here.
Yeah, and imagine it's like the other parts of the Underdark where everything's territorial, and his like patrol is his territory. Assuming.
Exactly. Yes, and like some of his notes, it's like, spotted creature down this tunnel. 6 legs. It gives little details of the creatures, and like, spotted lights at the end of this tunnel. I'd say that one interests you. And he takes you down that tunnel a little bit, and you find some familiar glowing fungi of the Underdark, which is just a good sign to you for this particular tunnel in the sense that it leads into a more robust ecosystem, which is indicative of the Underdark. But he says he does not go past the fungi because he views them as sort of an edge of another place, and he doesn't want to interfere with that. At least it's this you can get from the way he's talking, because he doesn't talk much, so he's just sort of like, fungi, effervescent, glowing, bioluminescent. Tunnel continues deeper. Not of interest of the home. And you can tell he's interested, but it's not his job.
Mm-hmm.
It's not his job to explore.
I imagine I try and do some small talk with him as we go along, just because I've been getting cozier with her. I gave him that book about the Pallid King, and I maybe relay some of the information, like, oh, these fungi are similar to the ones we found up above, but maybe have less violent tendencies. You could make a really good stew or alcoholic drink if you ferment them.
And you see, as you have this small talk, you notice he eventually, like, you there's a point where you're sitting, and maybe it's like lunchtime, and he just pulls out a little like druid crafted case that he's like sealed, and you see he starts a fey fire, puts a pot out, he like runs a finger along this sort of what just looks like a wooden orb, and it just sort of unseals, and he opens it and just like pours in his one of his stews. And you can see him just sort of crumbling up different herbs into it. Taramron very clearly really likes cooking, but he has a very specific taste. He cooks things that most people don't like, that are funky and probably fermented. And during this sort of lunch break where you're both sitting there, and he gives you some of the stew, and you start to bring up some of this small talk, you watch him sort of pick up some materials and gather some things together. He grabs a small rock from the ground. You see he creates one of these druid crafted devices that he keeps his notes in. And when you're talking, you see him tap he takes that rock, and you see him close his hand around it and then opens it up, and it is suddenly the blue cloudy orb, and it puts it into the druid crafted device. He's essentially like a druid artificer.
So he's making he's down with the booch, is what you're telling me.
Exactly, he's down with the booch.
He's making some cave kombucha.
Both literally, he makes cave kombucha, but also he's there's a lot more curiosity inside that, like kind of brutish exterior. And he taps it, and he starts to record, essentially recording your notes you're giving him.
Oh, great! In that case, I flaunt. Like, I'll go on for hours. I'll talk about every single monster he tries to identify.
Yeah, and and it breaks into little moments where he's just sort of like, repeat that last bit about the poisonous barbs. Is this poison secrete from the tip, or are they themselves laced with? And you just kind of go into this long conversation about creatures and taxonomy of the Underdark, and mushrooms and fermentation, and you guys have a great day, I'd say. like you really like Taramron really opens up a little bit, and there's a point where he just sort of breathes a sigh of relief and puts away the device, and then you see he grabs a little rock, he grabs some more, and he makes another one, and he hands it to you. And he says, "These devices will help you keep your memory straight. They're not and out of character, they're not recordings. Like, he doesn't press it and it plays back. They're like, closest thing I could say is they're sort of like the what's it called in Harry Potter? The thing that Dumbledore keeps his memories in.
Pensive.
They're sort of like that, in the sense of like you can commune with it and it will help you remember what you've placed into it."
It's like an index?
Yeah.
A card catalog, if you will.
Card catalog for your brain. Exactly.
Dewey down.
Awesome. And is there some sort of limit that I should be aware of with these things, or should I just
just go ham and just keep notes of what you put into it for record.
Yeah. I like this.
There'll be a point when I will say it is kind of like a voicemail, where there will be a point when it is full and you will have to like delete things, or like the next thing you add will delete the oldest thing from it.
Mm-hmm. It's a VCR.
Yeah, it's absolutely 90s technology in a fantasy world.
Yeah. I before I hit record, I hit play, and it's just some old wedding video.
Yeah. Yeah, right. It has, you just see a bunch of Taramron's old memories. And you can like tell, like, he gave you like the first one he ever made that has like just completely worthless thoughts into it. It's just like him like messing with it, like his mixtapes on there.
Oh, sweet.
But No, it's a fresh one, and he just says, he's sort of like, curious preacher like yourself will find this useful. I've enjoyed this conversation, Wiswick.
I have as well, Taramron. Thank you for this gift.
We must move on. But I look forward to further conversations. I do hope we see each other again after you leave.
Wiswick just nods a lot of times emphatically and gives him a big snurfnevolent smile.
And you get and I'll say there is a brief conversation in there. We don't have to RP it, where most of the information you learn is that Elspeth and Taramron are like duty bound to this place, like a cleric who's bound to a specific temple. They are not like bound to it by forces. There's no magic holding them here, but they take their oaths so seriously that they don't ever leave beyond the confines of the surrounding area. Neither of them have ever left the forest of Taramron, but they both are wildly curious about the world outside. Taramron uses these tunnels to satisfy that urge, and he tells you a little bit how he worries about Elspeth because she doesn't have an outlet for it. So you get a little bit about them in that sense.
Yeah, I think Wiswick, when having this conversation, would probably offer him his services, just to say, I've been studying other alternate dimensions, and I know that you escaped from another plane, come here. I don't know what happened. I mean, I do know what happened to the plane, but the Feywild, it's in disarray, but if there were any of your people who wish to go back at any point, I might be able to assist.
And mostly his response would be, kind of a sigh, just, I don't know if any of these folk want to go back. And I don't know if a day will come when we can return safely, where the Font Mother will show us a new tomorrow, where her grace rejuvenates the scarred land, the burned trees, and can give peace to the souls of those who left that plane. And you see, like, when he mentions that part, you can tell that there's like a curious flicker in his mind of some connection was made there. That he's like, you're witnessing him discovering some connection in his mind. I must go and speak with Berlik. Come, Wiswick. We've done enough patrolling today. And he begins bringing you back to the burrow.
I think that after this, I don't know what day this occurs, this conversation.
Yeah.
If I have enough time, I think Wiswick kind of changes his focus, and instead of focusing on deciphering the book, he begins doing a more personal thing. He sets down, he begins writing what he remembers of like folklore and like ancient histories. Like, he doesn't have many like children's stories or anything like that, like works of fiction, but he tries his best to think of parts of history that were like had some sort of like moral lesson to them and were interesting in a way, and he kind of embellishes a little bit and just makes these fun little writes down these fun little stories that he wants to give to Elspeth, and it's all written in Gnomish, and he's gonna see it as like a way of helping Taramron find that out for her, and get like pique her curiosity a little.
Love it. Excellent. I would say it's what you were doing with him. I'll say maybe you spent 2 days on patrols with him. You started on the second day, and then on the third day was that conversation. Is there anything else? Because I know we still need to scry on Caleb. Is there any other notes? And then Cal, the third day comes and
The Robert things, yeah.
yes. So let's do Robert. Let's do Scry and Caleb. And then is there anything else anyone would like to do during downtime after that? Kieran, what would you like to do?
Got another message for Thatcher.
Mine's quick.
Nice.
Mine's quick.
Okay. Well, let's do Timbers then.
Gathering herbs. We'll talk afterwards. Kira.
All right.
So efficient.
That's Alex for you. All right, so let's do Kieran. Let's hear your next sending. Do you want to send it on the same day as the other ones, or?
Yep, it would have been in succession.
Great.
Succession.
All right, so you've inquired about the mask. You've revealed yourself somewhat, just at the least in the moniker Q. And T has promised that he would speak with you when he finds you, as well as bring a gift for his sister.
After a moment, still thumbing that copper wire, he responds, "She looked for you, 10 years. Says she did some horrible things, too. What happened to you? Why the hate? Why the mask?"
Again, there's sort of a pause before a response comes. 10 years. 10 years. That is a long time, like you said. It's a long time to be thieving, murdering, and... I didn't think of a third thing. He says that. He's like, I can't think of it. I didn't think of it. It's a long time for her to have been looking for me. How far did she get? From Gristram. From the Crimson Corps. 10 years is a long time to not leave the city near your hometown. In search. If you're a lost friend, your lost brother, your twin. So I don't know. I don't know if I could say she lurked hard, but I can certainly say she did some terrible things, I'm sure. I didn't ask for this mask, but I took it. For myself. And then just sort of sign off with that. You're a very interesting person, Q. I do look forward to speaking with you in person. And that's all I'll say.
Q's just gonna respond with a very quick, "You can look for us, but you'll never find us. Good luck."
We keep saying we can run, but we can't hide. Why don't we just try hiding?
And you'll just get a very brief response. And good luck to you, too. And that's all.
All right, and the rest of the time, Kieran's looking at those notes.
Perfect. All right. Cal.
Hello.
I'll say the last sort of moment of before whatever you want to do now is So on the third day, you're getting your strength back on this day. I'll say like it's no longer just you like sort of like, ooh, okay, that's the muscle I need to stretch out more. It's more like you're starting to get back into your precision. Everything's starting to feel better. You yourself are like, yes, I have my like arms back almost in the sense of being able to use your swords. And this is the day that Robert is just sort of like sitting there like.
In a weird way, because my shirt's for sure off.
Oh no. Because I also it's funny. I just assumed your shirt was off, of course.
Yeah,
during all of this. No, Robert is just sort of sitting off to the side.
You all know if Tim was ripped, he would take every opportunity.
For sure. But Robert is just watching and sort of like keeping an eye on like, and you can see he's like watching your specifically focusing when you're moving and when you're doing particular motions, and occasionally just sort of like he'll look like confused after you've moved like way too fast for him to process, and he's just sort of like just keenly interested. It reminds you of your maybe it reminds you of yourself when you were very young, back in Honduras, watching your older brother, or even just like kids who are watching you when you were training in Honduras.
Robert.
Oh, yeah. Is it time to do something, Mr. Cal?
Well, no, it's up to you. I guess it's more of a question. Do you want to learn swords, bladesmanship? Is the whatever? Fuck.
Do you want to learn swords?
You want to like just play swords?
You don't play swords? We don't play eights.
Would you like to learn the blade?
While you were studying and going to parties, I learned the way of the blade.
I learned the
blade. He looks at you, and I'd imagine this would be at like the end of your or close to the end of your training as you've done all these things, and just like, hey, I've never. I mean, I used a dagger back in Oranshire, but I've never been one to be able to defend myself. To be honest with you, I get real queasy when I see blood. But I mean, if you're offering, I think it would. If I'm traveling with you all, I think I should know how to defend myself a little. Maybe you think?
Agreed. I do think. I think my question for you, though, and the question that you really need to think about, and you can take your time on the answer, is do you want me to teach you how to defend yourself, or do you want me to teach you the blade? And it's up to you, Robert. I don't, I could do either. Between myself and Timber, we could teach you enough, and probably Scarlet, we could teach you enough physical defensive maneuvers that you'll be fine in most situations.
But you see, Robert is like scratching the back of his head, like you can see he's like thinking, like his head is going, wait, there's a difference.
He's not an idiot. He's just
no. He's. It's not even that he's not smart. I think he has he's low wisdom is what he really has.
Very low wisdom.
Yeah. He's like, well, at the very least, I think I should know how to defend myself. And you see he pauses for a moment, and then he says, the things that you do, they're just more. And I guess that's what you mean. And I would like that. And this is like the first, like the only other time you've seen Robert speak confidently was when at that campsite when he started asking you all about what's going on, like why, if you're in his.
Are we the bad guys?
Are we the bad guys? And he just looks up, and there's a moment where he's sort of shaking his head and not looking directly at you after he said, if you do something more. And then he just looks up and he says, yes, I want that.
Excellent. And I walk over, and is there like there's a lot of wood and branches and crap around here. Is there just like a 3 foot long, like pretty thick branch? Like I'm going for like, this should be kind of heavy.
Oh, oh, yeah. I mean, the roots that are writhing through this are very thick and sturdy, and you could easily find something like you're describing.
Well, so I grab that and I like make it. I make sure I break it to the length I want, and I go over and I go, well, I don't have my training steels. Obviously, it's not something you generally keep with you after a while. But when we get back to a town, we could definitely buy some and move into the more interesting stuff. And I'll have to be honest. I'll have to spend some time thinking about how I would teach someone. But in the meantime, and I put the stick in his hand, and I lift his arm up to just parallel with the ground, so he's holding it out straight. I go, hold that for as long as you can. And then I just like step away and start like putting my sword away and cleaning myself up or whatever.
Okay, Mr. Cal.
Just Cal's fine, thank you. Well, actually, technically, eventually it'll be whatever. Just Cal's fine for now.
Okay, Mr. Cal.
And that's all I'm gonna do with Robert for like a month and a half. It's just like moving his arm to different positions and just be like, just hold this, just keep it here.
And thus begins Robert's character sheet with 1 level of fighter.
Yes!
And
Half a
he'll
level fighter.
yeah.
So he went from 1 HP to 5 HP.
Yeah, he's no longer just the commoner stat card.
Right.
Woo, Robert!
He does have the healer feat for his first aid. But anyway, so you all see this as you're going about your day too. You'll see like Cal is doing his usual stuff, like cleaning his blade and polishing his armor, and you see Robert just sort of like, okay.
I'll give him a break. Each day is a different angle. Like it's
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 not
like
just
up here now. It's over here.
not just like in a month he's got this like jacked like certain muscle in his arm.
And I make him switch arms and stuff too.
Yeah,
So, like
yeah,
we're not just.
No, yeah, for sure. You just see Robert in various like just difficult positions, doing some strength training.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that is Robert. The beginning of Robert's
There's
training.
one other thing, and it might not be a thing.
Okay.
Especially now that Timber has started to gather his herbs again, it seems like he's out of the mend, but he's at least not comatose.
Yeah.
I want to get a vibe, and I think Alex can probably answer this. I want to try and get a vibe. Is Timber right now a man that needs something to do, or is
Correct.
Timber right now a man that needs to be like he's just like leave me alone for now?
No, right now he was leaving me alone for a little while. Right now, since his recovery, or I should say recovery week, he's now at the point of I need something to do.
Okay. Well then,
I would
He's
say
still-
after
he's still on,
after
like-
that third day, he would
he's-
be in that
yeah.
like I need something to do.
He's
Okay,
he's
go
still
ahead.
like on the fence, but he's just trudging. He's
Yeah.
like he's doing his usual things. He's back to his usual things, but he's still not 100%.
so then I would like to go over, call it third or fourth day, whatever it is, fourth day. Once I get Robert into his position, and I've gone through my own warm up kata stuff or forms. I'd like to go over to Timber and be like, so, hey, I pat him on the shoulder. How you feeling?
Good. Now, how are you?
I'm doing well, thank you, but I know that. Look, I don't know what to say other than I'm sorry, and she was incredibly brave at the end. She must have been an incredible person.
She was incredible. She was incredible
Yeah.
wife. She was incredible person. She was everything. I appreciate your condolences.
Well, of course. Look, I've been teaching Robert. Started to. We haven't taught him anything yet, but it made me think. There's a lot of things that you know about more in fighting, hand-to-hand things that I know. Would you be willing to take me under your wing on that and teach me a few things?
Timber gets a little taken back at first, like, oh, Yeah. Yes. I would be glad to.
Thank you. And I give him a bow like I was trained to give to my swordmaster. And say, we can begin whenever you'd like. There's no rush. Just, as we continue to travel together, I'd like to learn. And now, too, also.
Give me a couple of days. I hope you
course.
can wake up early.
I am I don't know if that was a veiled shot from Alex to Tim, or if that was in character.
It
But
was
in character-
actually meant to be a crossover between
Okay,
both.
very cool. Cal would say, I'm definitely no stranger to that. I will see you whenever you need me.
Good.
That's, yeah.
And Caleth, thank you for everything, for following us, for following me to this resolution of mine. If it even is that, I can call it that, but thank you.
Of course. Look, we've been through enough at this point that I hope we still have each other's backs moving forward. And he gives him another shoulder, arm pat.
Appreciate that. And if my biggest concern right now is if I become a danger to you all. I'm not too sure my next steps. As much as I would like to train you, I also need to watch out myself for your sakes as well. It's like,
Well, I understand. But, we can take care of ourselves, I think. And with enough of us, we could support you and help fix this. Or at least bring it under control again.
at that point, you kind of see, like, in Timber's, not eyes, but, like, his, like, gesture, like, almost kind of changes from that sentence. Like, oh, okay. I appreciate that, again. Caleth, how old are you again?
My 20th birthday was 2 months ago, I believe. 3 months ago at this point.
You are very mature for your age. That is a
In the
compliment.
Storm Rain household, we grew up quickly.
I'm going to go gather some herbs. Do you need anything?
I think I'm all set, thank
How
you.
are your wounds?
It was mostly just, large-scale bruising. We're mostly back together now.
Okay, and the rest of the group?
Thank you, though. I think Scarlet's the most damaged still. Kieran and Wiswick seem fine at this point, based on what I saw.
Okay. Thank you again, Cal. And Timber.
I give him the same bow, the apprentice to master bow.
Also, you don't need a bow.
We should draw all these at some point. Sorry, guys.
Caleth, I appreciate the respect for authority, but we are equals. You don't need to bow to me. And Timber walks away from that.
Cal goes back and corrects Robert's stance.
Yeah. You actually, Cal, when you turn around, you actually see Embla correcting Robert's stance.
That was actually going to be another thing I wanted to work in, and I was going to invite her to spar with me at one point, just to be like, I'm back up to form now. Let's
do that on the 5th day.
Sure, yeah.
We'll do a quill.
I'm not trying to take up too much time with a lot of this stuff, unless
No, I
we
know.
need to learn some things.
I just want to resolve some of the outstanding things before. So I believe what we have is the scrying of Caleb. It would happen on the 4th day, around 5 p.m.-ish, the night time, or early night. Okay. So 4th day. So it is now the 8th for Ovalo, or Guavo. Okay. All right, Wiswick. So You take out the orb, the Oculus, and
Oh my god,
yeah, Scarlet. He doesn't take out the actual item. He takes out a glass orb that he
A glass
found.
orb,
And it's just
yeah.
like, ooh, Scarlet.
Holding the actual orb behind my back, like, oh.
But you sit and set the orb out in front of you. Scarlet, you sit across watching Wiswick. Wiswick, you start to focus as you did before, where the orb felt like an extension of your senses, and you watch Scarlet. You watch as it floats up in front of Wiswick. And you can see it fills with the. At first, there was just this little wisp of green light in it, and the entire orb fills with that green light. Wiswick, your eyes turn that same glowing color of light as you see the orb in front of you as this point of light, and then everything darkens around it. And then you feel like you're moving through a long tunnel towards this light. And as now the orb has become the end of the tunnel, and you're being rushed towards it. But let me do a. Oh, he already failed it. We already know he failed it because he got a 12. So
Is this like a fortune teller thing where she can see it too, or is it just
no,
me?
no, it's just you.
Okay.
All she can see is you essentially sitting there with the orb floating in front of you, and your eyes are the same color as the orb, and that's all she can see.
All right, so I'm actually like speaking as I'm in this form, like just like narrating what I see.
Excellent. So Wiswick, what you end up seeing is it goes, and then the light dissipates into a small scene that you're looking down upon, as if from a small little Oculus itself that is in the region around, in which you can move around a little bit. You can see and hear through it. Caleb is sitting. Give me a perception check real quick, just for the surroundings, just to get a gist for the whole scene.
Why you gotta do this to me? I rolled a 10,
Okay.
so that's a 10.
So what you see is he is sitting by a small fire in what appears to be a camp of his own making. No tent. There's a sleeping sleeping mat that he has. He is sitting on just a small stump, looking at this fire, just eyes just staring blankly towards the fire. He has no weapon on him. He's just the very basic clothes that you left him with. He doesn't have his armor or anything like that. That was all left behind. I'll actually take that back. He does have one dagger that is very bloody, and he is cleaning it off. He has bruises all over his face, like he's been in some fist fights recently. And you can see his eyes, he's quite literally just staring into the fire, dead-eyed. You can presume from this he's likely in the indoctrinated state you found him. But he looks very beat up. Like whatever he's been doing since has been some level of survival. The area, he's by a river. And you kind of use the orb to look about. You can see in the distance, not very large, because it's still quite far away, is Drift March. He looks
Somebody should message the general.
he looks like he's probably half a day away from Drift March. It's the kind of it's still it's approaching the end of the day, but he has made camp, and he's just looks like a mess.
How about, besides like the injuries, Is there any other like physical things to like? Does he look like he's well? Like, is he sick? Is he has he been eating? Does he look like he's been sleeping? Like just like normal
Yeah.
conditional things.
I would say that he looks like he doesn't look like sickly or like malnourished, but he does look haggard. Like he's definitely been living subsistently since escaping. You know,
Mhm.
probably stealing, probably maybe killing. He seems to be doing what he needs to survive right now. It doesn't look like he is on the edge of death or so injured that it's a problem. It more so looks like maybe got into a fist fight when he was stealing some food or something like that. But
Does he
doesn't
have a
look
weapon?
emaciated. Yes, he has the dagger. He's cleaning blood off of. Yeah, but no other weapons. You see no other weapons. You see nowhere where he can hide the weapons. He just has the single dagger that he's cleaning blood off of, sort of mindlessly as he sits by this campfire.
He headed back south. I can see Driftmarch in the distance, but he's all right. Should we try and maybe contact General Kingsley and have him go look for him? Perhaps they can hold him there for us.
Do I know that Kinsley was on his list?
I did the party tell.
I don't
any of
remember.
you tell her?
Did you guys tell me that?
I don't see a reason that we would have hit it. So yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I think
Okay.
I think there was like one person that we omitted. I don't remember.
I think it was the last name that. Oh no, Robert told me.
Oh yeah, Robert told
That's
me.
Oh,
Robert
right,
told me.
yeah.
Yep. Okay.
So you do know that.
We do that, yeah. I mean, if he's heading back towards Driftmarch, we should let the general know to keep an eye out for him because he was on his list.
Right. All right. I mean, I can manage that.
Thank you, Wiswick. And thank you for letting me borrow your quill and ink.
No problem. By the way, what did you end up? I mean, it's okay if you don't want to say, but what did you need it for?
Wanted to get back into an old hobby.
That's really nice. That's good. Are you a writer?
My mother taught me.
Maybe you could help me with some of these stories that I've been writing up. I'm not really good at being, I don't know. I remember the facts, you know. I can't really get behind this one character that I'm trying to make.
Well, I'm not so much the creative type, but I can make it look nice. If you'd like me to.
Wiswick's kind of like taken aback. He's like, oh, that's not really helpful.
Wiswick doesn't appreciate calligraphy.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Well, I would love
Illuminated
to help.
manuscript.
If you could make a nice cover page for me, perhaps some illustrations, that would be great.
Sure. I'll see what I can do.
All right.
And I'll just do a quick sending to General Kingsley. We don't have to do the 25 limit. I'll make it short and sweet. Hey.
Hey.
Well,
You up?
Hey. Hey, you up? It's me, Wiswick. A lot of ahs and ums. Shoot, I already forgot his name. Caleb. A ragged man. Physical description, enter here.
Crimson Court Assassin.
Crimson Court Assassin. Try not to kill him. He's after your head. Watch out.
okay.
A day's way north.
I will note that you don't get a response.
Damn it!
It
Wait, hold on.
it does
Did
go
it go
through,
through?
though. It does
Okay.
go through. You can sense that it goes through. Like, you know the spell successfully reached General Kinsley, but he does not respond. You might think, much like Queen Ayla not responding to Curon right away, that important political figures probably write messages down and then decide to respond to them later if they want to, if they have the capacity,
Just
like
rude.
someone
They're just
like
rude people.
Kinsley does. They're just really,
Uh,
just people in power. So rude.
Is it possible that I could send the same exact message, except to, like, I'd send it to one of his lowers?
Yeah, you could send it to Valen if you wanted to.
That's exactly what I was going to. Thank you. Yeah, I send it to Valen, and I give him the same information.
Okay. Valen's response would very much be like, I will alert the general as soon as he returns to Driftmarch. He is currently on an exploration mission. He should be returned.
Half a day to a day's north.
He's currently 6 feet under the ground underneath Caleb's camp. Can you imagine that? Like, you're scrying Caleb and he's digging a grave,
right?
and you just see the body of the general next to him.
Oh
I
god.
wonder what happened.
But Valen accepts the message and ensures that the general will hear it. But you do know he does say the general is away on an exploration mission. Will be back any day now.
Can I reply, or I mean, hold on, let me see how many spell
You'd have
slots
to
I
cast sending again, yeah.
Oh my god. All right.
But I mean, you could also easily just, if you don't have spell slots, you can send it the next day. There's
unacceptable. I have one more slot.
okay.
I send back to Velen and I say, "Sounds like bullshit to me. You guys haven't changed at all. Suck a dick, Wiswick."
All Valen's response.
Why?
All Valen's responses is
Good to talk to you too.
yeah, pretty much just charming as always, Wiswick. That's it. That's all he responds with. Wow.
Why?
Okay. All right.
There's always been a little beef there, and Wiswick
yeah,
doesn't like the subterfuge. Why can't people
Yeah.
just be straight?
Doesn't like. He also has never liked Valen.
I've never liked Valen. I've never liked the general.
Okay. He only liked the general
Suck a
once.
dick, Wiswick.
Suck.
All right. That's gonna
Are
be.
you saying that Wiswick will suck a dick, or are you saying
No, I was referencing the earlier.
Come
New T-shirt.
Wiswick.
Wiswick. Suck a dick signed Wiswick.
Yeah, in quotes, hyphen Wiswick.
Yeah.
Right, but it has to be with like a quill writing, nice script.
Yeah, or in Scarlet's calligraphy. Okay. All right. So I'd say by this point, we're getting into the 5th day of this long rest. You're all sort of, everyone is on their feet now. Everyone is recovered. Scarlet, you still have aches and pains, but you're fundamentally fit to go. So mainly, I think you all should have some kind of conversation about what you're gonna do next. And it's sort of, and I'd say it's sort of this. It's like this feeling of like, hey, it's the 5th day of vacation, and like we have to go back to work tomorrow. Should we talk about how we're gonna start work? You almost want to be like, we'll figure it out on the 6th day, but you're definitely like starting to like run in, like you're sitting around like Elspeth's handing all of your daily face saps out. She's kind of like, oh, it's pretty tense in here. You've all been, you've definitely had interactions throughout these 5 days, but
How did my sparring match with Embla go?
Forgot about that.
It's okay. We can do it later. It's fine.
Yeah. I would say we can do that.
Does it influence my relationship with Embla?
I would say it might. So
Yeah,
we can
okay.
maybe do that at the beginning of next session,
Sure.
since we're getting past 10 now.
Can I
But-
start
It's gonna
the
be a full-on
conversation?
combat.
What'd you say, Kieran?
I was gonna say it's gonna be a full-on combat session.
Yes, Scarlett, you can absolutely start the conversation.
Okay.
Because you're all sitting around breakfast, I'll say.
Yep.
Well, so
Or
the only thing is, was there more information I gathered from those notes?
Yeah, that is.
Oh,
the
yes,
question,
sorry,
is-
sorry.
Directly influence where this conversation goes.
sorry, yes. So you give me a with advantage, give me an investigation check since you've spent a lot of time organizing these notes.
What's better? 21.
21. Okay. So if you're looking at the timeline of it, of these
Mhm.
notes, it starts a long time ago. Like this facility was established at least a year ago. And it's in its beginnings, it is largely about experimenting with lay sanctums. Is with the beginning of it. It has no reference to Thatcher's plans in the beginning. The thing you can note about these experiments is that the researcher talks about the Highland Syndicate in general terms, as opposed to talking about Thatcher. So it can be presumed at this point that he is working more specifically with the Syndicate and not with Thatcher. You might notice mentions of individuals here and there that are probably Syndicate officials. You notice at least one that is from Fletcher. In just like a brief interaction that this guy had with Fletcher. That is the guy writes very bitterly about him. How he's a ugly sort of man, not civilized, cruel, unnecessarily dramatic. Shortly after that interaction with Fletcher, he starts to mention Thatcher. And that's when things start to enter into, you find lines like, it seems as though our success with our first experiments have led the facility to take upon itself a new goal. We will be researching artifacts brought to us by the leader of the Highland Butchers, a new individual named Erdwulf Thatcher. You'll be sending the first artifact soon, as well as coming to the camp to meet with our researchers. You find notes about the Lay Sanctum mention the plan. Just this generalized thing, capital P, the plan. That the Highland Syndicate will engage in the plan as soon as we've completed these experiments, transferring all data over to our client on what we've learned about constructing lay sanctums. The Thatcher experiments begin, essentially in the notes. Talks about they deliver magically infused individuals touched by the planes of fire, water, ice, wind. Those also touched by chaos and din. Those touched by the light and radiance. All races. And we're to test their relationship or their susceptibility to the artifacts Erdwulf brings us. We do not have enough researchers. It is myself and a small team. And they do not. There is some lack of heart, I will say, of these assistants of mine. And moving forward, there's a point when Thatcher has promised me an enchanter of great power. A wizard from the south. He said will help us understand. I hope it is nothing like the last two he brought me. One fled into the woods. We found his body littered with arrows. The other, well, let's just say she didn't have the heart. Perhaps this one will be new and better. And then it gets into Reyna's time at the camp. There is a portion before Reyna gets there where he says, I've heard that there's been excellent results that have come of our previous experiments with place sanctums. Client has begun, just as the plan said they would, working on a sanctum in the valleys of the mountains to the west. If I'm not mistaken, the plan will hopefully incite some chaos and allow our operations to expand and for prosperity in the future for the syndicate and our own research. I've heard that there are already works, missions in the works from the syndicate to ensure the discovery of this sanctum by necessary informants and necessary spies. So there's this larger subplot in these journal entries you're finding that have less to do with Thatcher's experiments and more to do with lay sanctum research and a client who wanted to know the basics and to know as much data as they could provide for them so they could build their own lay sanctums. And then a part of this plan by the Highland Syndicate to ensure the proper people know this client has built a lay sanctum to create chaos, to allow them to take more control of parts of the country. When it gets into the experiments with when Reyna is there, you'll notice there's a whole section where he says, she's quite brilliant and certainly more resourceful than any of my assistants prior. It is only I and her now on the research team, and I do believe with this strength of will, we will accomplish what we need. She proved to have high resolve upon arriving here, but it seems as though she has bent her will more to our liking and more to our endeavors. She is each day more interested, more intrigued with our research. And as it gets closer to current dates, there's a main section that's about Subject Zero. We have received a delivery by Thatcher of a captive said to advance our research into the next steps. He has told me stories of these figures that he has called Geists. He says that they are entities most influenced by his pallid mask. And he is delivering one to us tomorrow to run experiments on. Reyna is most interested. I do believe she will make some groundbreaking work in these endeavors. So generally, the figure that they were using as energy for their experiments was a stranger in yellow.
Without the yellow.
Without the yellow. And here's a description of them. They arrived when we magically sedated them and opened it up. It was grotesque. The flesh was cracked like split earth. Seemed to have been singed beyond recognition, with veins of green light twisting throughout their flesh. Could hardly say you know what they may have looked like before. We have secured them behind some of what our researchers have defined as an ancient, enchanted glasswork. Found in, I've heard the formula, he goes on esoterically about this magical glass, that you do actually take note of, because he says it's supposedly an ancient Elysian glass. from long ago, said to withstand all manner of magic. Something from across the sea, even, they say, in the old world. But it ultimately starts to twist and bend from here. He has some scientific notes that then are like sort of peppered with, I heard voices in my dreams last night speaking of the fates of the world, these nations. Thatcher. We must not be distracted. I caught Raina last night, sitting by the creature. Didn't look like they were speaking. Maybe watching each other. I must remind myself to check in with her. And it's from here they start to grow more and more twisted as they're starting to mention, like, I heard a name whispered in my ear as I passed the tank. Nyalogith. He whispered of a place where we would all go when it got its way. It threatened to kill me if I did not release him. And that's sort of when it starts to end in its like meaningfulness. Beyond that, it starts to talk about this subject zero as it starts to refer to it as where is it? It starts to refer to it as Einhert, as if this is some kind of name that it has been given to it. Einhert. And it starts to like talk about this figure in a very like reverent way. Like, the Lord Einhert says that our time is coming soon. That when the moment strikes, that I will release him, and he will see fit to bring me along on his journey to see the other side, to see Carcerate, to bring me along, save my soul when all is damned into this world, is brought to ash, to be rebuilt. As the Master intended. Time will come to praise Nyalogith and to ensure the wayward one is avenged and his dream made real. Einhard will lead us on this journey to freedom. And that's the most coherent thing you can get out of the last parts. It starts to get into this esoteric, almost poetry, talking about this place, Carcery. Little things that just say, all are free in the eternal night of Carcery. In the lands of Nyalogith, we will be set free, and we will see. There's lines like this, where saying, in this plane, in this prison of the material plane, murderers, thieves, brigands claim to be our lords, our gods, our masters. And it's all a reference to the brutality of this world and the beauty of Carcery.
Does that plane mean anything to Kieran?
Give me a religion check with advantage, because you may have actually heard of it.
Is he relaying this information? Maybe I can assist.
I'd imagine you two might be cross talking about this throughout the 5 days.
All right, great. So I'll roll 2.
Yeah.
15.
15.
Oh, I got a 15 too, except I have a plus 11 to history, so it's a 26.
Oh no, I just say what the final number is.
Curon, I'd say with a 15, you have you've in all that you know about the Morrisier conflict, because you do know quite a bit of it. You've heard a lot of the oral tradition of it. Carcery is said to have been the plane of existence that the Wayward One called home during the Morrisier conflict. Wiswick, you know this as well, but you also know that you start to, I mean, there's not much more to know about it in regards to like what people of this time would know. They really would only know that it is the home of the, or at least you could consider it more like the stronghold of the Wayward One during the conflict. Wiswick, you might have heard it referenced before in maybe some of the discussion, like maybe some of the more idiosyncratic discussions about Abraxas, the darkened one that is said to be the dark god of the Underdark, and that when Abraxas served the Wayward One in the Morrisier conflict, it was said that his like shadowy essence, like the glut that filled him, came from Carcery. Because the stories of Abraxas in his purest form was of just an endless, expanding, bloating form that was filled with the shadows of the lower planes.
Okay, would I know? I don't know much about the Morrisier conflict, obviously, but we don't know. I mean, the Wayward One is like one of the major, like he instigated everything.
Yeah,
right?
the Morrisier conflict was the machinations of the Wayward One, and he is said to be dead.
And there's no evidence as to which. I mean, we know some of us know which god stood up to him, but any that specifically defeated him, or
You don't. The Wayward One
maybe
was.
there's different claims.
There's different claims. Like some will claim the Everflame defeated him. Others will claim that it was, whatever their respective god was. Some will claim that Danu Malor defeated him. Some will claim that Hadria defeated him. Likely it was a combined effort of those who were surviving still. It's unlikely that a single god brought him down. There's others who say that the Pantheon were like the current conservator gods are the hero. All of them together are the heroes that defeated the Wayward One. Like they came together to defeat him, and it's unsure if there was a single leading entity. Together with what gods survived of the remnant ones, they all defeated him together.
Yeah, I think that Wiswick would just relay that it's bad news. Like, whatever this Carcery, whatever these people are trying to do, the Carcery and the Wayward One, they're evil. We can't let any of this shit go on while we're still here. Like, that'll destroy us if we allow these people to keep, like, these creatures, the ones we know, I guess they're now known as Geists, or these Einhearts, they need to be destroyed.
Oh, I am well aware of the threat they pose, not to just us, this entire continent, my people. I will say, during Kieran's reading, I'm sorry to do this, but as he's learning about Thatcher's involvement, he'd be sending messages, if anything else, just to be annoying. Things like, if on the third day or something, he's like,
Good morning, Thatcher. I hope you slept well. I was wondering if you could tell me more about this plan with a capital P. I'm not sure how involved you were with it, but I'd very much like to know your involvement in placing you.
That's definitely over 25 words. But
Yeah, I'd say like you get responses at first, but slowly they stop coming back. You know, it's just you giving him information at that point.
Yeah, I think Wiswick probably warns you at some point if he notices. Like, you don't want to let him know too much.
he want to continue once like the first time that there is no response.
Okay.
It's off.
Okay. All right. If you'd prefer to make that, I mean, I don't know, because I guess what we could do is we could wait until next session to really have this conversation about what you want to do next. Just because this is a lot that might influence that.
Yeah.
And what
Well,
you're asking.
I want to make sure we have all the pieces together before we jump into this conversation.
No, I agree, and I think that what we'll do then is next session we'll start with that. We'll start with getting last bits of information for what you would do during this time, and then Cal's duel with Embla and discussing anything with her, and then
We have a whole. It's one of those scenes where like they just like dump each other's feelings out, except we don't know each other that well, so it'll just be like.
I mean, realistically, like
in between sword strikes, we'll have whole fucking conversation.
Yeah, they're like my master. Because I mean, realistically, you'll need a little bit more time, a little bit more information to have a meaningful conversation here for this next step conversation. You know, I'll really kind of emphasize like the feelings you're getting as you're reading this information, and perhaps I'll send you some more before next session. Is largely like overwhelming and beyond you, to the point where my main thing to make you understand and feel from reading this is a lot of this is too big for you right now. Like there may be things that it may point to like a clue into maybe where to go to continue investigating this information, but it may be too big to be like this is what we're doing next.
We need to go research.
Yeah. Or it might be the kind of thing where you might have to. I'd recommend maybe thinking about like where can we make this information useful, and then maybe think like this is a place that we'll talk more about it in the beginning of next session. I will give you some information, Kieran and Wiswick, from the books that you're researching, so that we can jump into that information next week. And if I'd like to actually like resolve any messages you send to Thatcher, I don't really want to hand wave that.
Okay.
So what I guess I'll say is, without getting into the conversation, we'll still say you wake up on that 5th day, or maybe a little ways into that 5th day. You're all kind of sitting there, gathered together, with the thought of it's time to talk about where we're going next, what is even happening exactly here, and who are we? What is this?
We're the heroes of
I had a bit of an opener that I wanted to do to kick that off, but it'll make sense either now or beginning of next session.
Yeah, we'll do it in the beginning of next session. We'll resolve some of these last bit things that are happening during downtime, and then we'll jump into the 5th day, sort of 5th midday time that this conversation will happen. But with that being said, we will end the session there with sort of some information dump on Huron and Wiswick. But we've seen some interesting moments for all of our characters here that I am excited to engage in more next week as we decide what is next for all of you.
And we celebrate 1 year.
And we'll be celebrating 1 year. So, for those of you who stuck around with us all the way to 10:30, thank you very much. I hope that you enjoyed hanging out with us in Paradise tonight, and I will look forward to seeing you all next week. And have a good night. We love you. Bye.
Bye.
Suck a dick from Wiswick.
Yeah.